Welcome to Moonlit Publishing.
Chapter 1. Pain isn't just a feeling anymore, it's a location. And for the last 13 years, I have lived right in the center of it, waiting for the monsters upstairs to finish the job finally. They say life is unfair, but this is a sick joke. Honestly, I would trade my soul to be a bug. Just a simple, insignificant insect living in a quiet garden somewhere. A bug has freedom. A bug has a home. But me? I am lower than the dirt a beetle crawls on. I am human. And in this world, that is a death sentence. We aren't people to them. We are livestock. Toys. Things to be broken. The world is split in two by shadow and blood. To the north, the vampires cold, calculating, and cruel. To the south, the werewolves savage, possessive, and violent. And us humans? We are just the meat caught in the grinder. A deal struck hundreds of years ago decided our fate. We serve, we bleed, or we breed. There is no escape. No running. You are branded at birth, tagged like cattle. Unless, of course, you are unlucky enough to be mated to a wolf. I live, if you can call it living, in the bloodlust pack. A terrifying name for a terrifying reality. I was sold to them at 5 years old. I don't remember my parents. I don't remember love. I only remember the rules. Clean the mess. Cook the food. Endure the temper. If humans still ran the world, I'd be an adult starting her life. Instead, I'm a ghost haunting the basement. Runt. Get up here. The alpha's voice cracks the air like a whip. My left eye starts to twitch, a nervous tick I can't control. Fear floods my veins, cold and sharp. I scramble up the stairs, my body still aching from last night's punishment. A stolen piece of bread cost me hours of agony. I reach the kitchen. The smell of pancakes and bacon fills the air of food I cook, but will never taste. I work fast. Wolves are hungry, and hungry wolves are dangerous. I set the table, my hands trembling, and the moment I hear heavy footsteps thundering down the hall, I turn to flee. I just need to disappear. I just need to get back to the safety of the shadows. But I wasn't looking. I slam into a wall of solid muscle. The impact sends me sprawling backward, hitting the floor hard enough to rattle my teeth. I look up and the blood drains from my face. It wasn't a wall. It was him. Joshua Scott. The future alpha. Watch where you're going, he sneers. Before I can even whimper an apology, his hand connects with my face. Snap. My head whips to the side. The sting is immediate, blinding hot tears springing to my eyes. Sorry, Alpha, I whisper, cowering. He doesn't accept it. He stares at me, his eyes darkening, shifting from human to wolf. He grabs a fistful of my hair, jerking me up until my toes barely touch the ground. Maybe I need to teach you a lesson, he whispers, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. So you don't forget your place. He drags me. Not back to the kitchen, but to the basement stairs. He throws me down. Concrete meets skin. Bone meets stone. I tumble to the bottom, gasping for air as my bruised ribs scream in protest. But he isn't done. He looms over me, a predator toying with wounded prey. He lifts me by my throat. Black dots dance in my vision. The air is crushed out of my lungs. Just as the darkness threatens to take me completely, he slams me into the ground. Then comes the lash. I don't beg. Begging only makes them angry. I just scream. Eventually, the pain fades into a dull throb. He leaves me there, broken and bleeding on the cold floor. The darkness creeps in, soft and welcoming. They say life is pain. But for a human in a world of wolves, death feels like the only mercy. Chapter 2. So which one of us has to go check on the bloodlust pack? Or should I say whose unlucky turn is it? My brother Xavier asked while walking into my office with Lucas, my other brother, in tow behind him. I was currently going through possible recruits and seeing which warriors had finally finished up their training and were ready to be enlisted. I'm thankful I have my brothers, so I don't have to take on the full workload, but some days it feels like Xavier doesn't even try. The only time I've actually seen him work hard is when he's trying to pawn off his workload on either Lucas or me. Lucas looked like I felt very antsy. All our wolves had been on edge. Xavier was happy because he thought it had something to do with our mate, whereas Lucas and I thought it might be about a pending attack. One word: priorities. The Bloodlust Pack was due for an inspection. We don't want anyone thinking they are above the law. Our annual inspections for our packs help keep everyone regulated. On average, we have about one pack inspection every 1 to 2 weeks, because let's face it, we have a lot of packs. The Bloodlust Pack was especially difficult to handle. They were always trying to gain more land or hide things from us. Several times, we've had to intervene because they were about to go to war with neighboring packs to try to gain more territory. Greedy fools. If I didn't know any better, I would think it was a werewolf pack run by a bunch of vampires, given how greedy and self-centered they are. Then there is another problem with them. They like buying humans and using them for their own selfish needs. Yes, we employ humans as servants, but the Bloodlust Pack treats them more like property. They often mistreat them until they can't take it anymore, then suddenly no one can find the humans. As if they suddenly disappeared into thin air, even the tracker that we have installed in them suddenly doesn't work anymore. Another reason we keep the time between inspections short. We don't want them getting away with anything. The last time we inspected them, we couldn't even find a trace of humans, which was a good thing. If they had no humans, it meant they couldn't hurt or harm any more of them. But it was odd as well. However, that day I didn't really have the energy to go digging for any more evidence against them. I can't. I have to work on the paperwork for the transfers who want to join our pack, Lucas said, drawing me back to the topic at hand, sitting down on the couch while Xavier took one of the chairs in front of my desk. You see, the three of us are triplets. Not only that, but we are the alpha kings of the werewolves. We keep everyone in line and attempt to keep the peace between the werewolves and the vampires. Those vampires always want more than what they deserve. But we have to keep some sort of balance between the two sides, and the vampires are never fair, so it's up to us. My wolf was antsy for some reason, and it only got worse with the mention of the Bloodlust Pack. He couldn't be settled. Maybe it's because I haven't been on a run in a few days. Or maybe he just wanted justice because he knew they were up to no good. This trip to the Bloodlust Pack may be a good thing. I could see what those idiots are up to and give my wolf a chance to run. I'll go. I have nothing better to do. As soon as the words came out, one of our betas came rushing and looking distraught. There are rogues at the southern border. It seems to be a pack of rogues. Caden rushed out. We all jumped to our feet and rushed out of the pack house office. As we exited the threshold, we jumped and shifted in midair into our midnight black wolves. We darted toward the southern border. As we got there, we saw our men definitely had the upper hand. It seemed like we weren't needed at all. Immediately, I went for the biggest rogue there. It must be the leader. Within seconds, I'd taken him down. Leave one alive, I said through the link to my brothers. I wanted to know who really hired these rogues because they don't work in packs. That's what makes them rogues. They are wolves with no morals and no regret. They are the wolves often kicked out of packs. Some leave willingly because they can't take the rules of a pack or the hierarchy. Got one, Lucas said back through the link. I watched as Lucas and a few guards dragged the rogue to the cells, no doubt for a chat. Xavier and I shifted back and threw on some shorts that were stuffed in a tree. We placed them all around the territory. We have no problem with nudity, but it's not proper for royalty to walk around exposed. We began to walk back to our house. Typically, alphas stay in the pack house, but since we wanted privacy when we found our mate, we have our own home. Well, I guess it would be closer to a mansion or even a small castle. Unfortunately, it's been almost 7 years since we turned 16, and most werewolves find their mates within 2 years of turning 16. Alphas usually find their mate within the first few months. It's been about 3 years since we concluded that our mate may be dead, or even the harsh possibility that we didn't get one. And what our parents are doing isn't helping us. For the past few months, our parents have even been trying to set us up with other alphas' daughters. We haven't agreed because I guess we still have that one sliver of hope left. No wolf wants to willingly give up the chance to be with their mate, no matter how hopeless it may seem. I headed into my room on the second floor of our house to start packing for the trip to the Bloodlust Pack. I wanted to get this trip over with, and I knew my brothers could handle the pack without me for a few days. Usually, we give packs a heads up when we're coming, but because the Bloodlust pack has never been one to follow the rules. They mistreat their servants. They make unofficial deals with the vampires. We don't give them any warning. The day of inspection is always random each year. They even harm their own pack members, so if we warn them that we are coming, they have an opportunity to hide all the illegal things they've been up to. Not on my watch. When I got to my room, I immediately took a shower. After my shower, I dried my white hair with a towel and put on an all-black suit. One of the maids had already packed a bag in case we had to stay longer than a few hours, which I really didn't want to do. I grabbed the bag and headed downstairs, where my brothers were waiting, along with Caden and Dante, the beta and gamma I was taking with me. I was taking a few warriors with me in case things got out of hand, but they'd be running in their wolf form to the pack. "Good luck, brother," Xavier said with a grin plastered to his face. He got out of going to the Bloodlust pack because I stupidly had nothing better to do. "Look for mate while you're there," Lucas whispered when I went to hug him, sounding a little desperate, but honestly, so was I. A mate would be the missing puzzle piece to our lives. We even have a room picked out and ready for her. All we are missing is her. I gave him a sad smile, and he gave me one back before patting my shoulder and going back up to his room. "All right, boys, let's get this over with," I said, directing my words towards my beta and gamma. The mention of our mate putting me in a somber mood, we headed out front, where an SUV was waiting for us. We loaded up our bags in the back of the SUV and got in, Caden driving, me in the back, and Dante in the passenger seat. Then we started the 3-hour journey to the Bloodlust pack, with 8 warriors surrounding the SUV. Chapter 3. I am dragged out of the darkness and greeted with the smell of freshly cut flowers. Roses, my favorite scent. Ironically, I open my eyes and flowers greet me. Hundreds, possibly even thousands of them, all around me. Everywhere. I was standing in a field of flowers, the sky a vast expanse of baby blue. The sun was shining brightly, a sun I feel I haven't seen in years. My body no longer hurt. For some reason, I could move freely, and when I walked, it was as if I was walking on nothing but air. Am I dead? Am I finally free? Is my suffering finally over? "Welcome, my child," whispered a soothing voice, seemingly coming from thin air. The voice was gentle yet commanding. "Who is there?" I turn around and come face to face with the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. She almost didn't seem real. She looked like a goddess. She had long white hair that flowed down to her ankles. Even her eyelashes were white. Her eyes looked just like the moon. It seemed like she had the midnight sky dancing around in them. She was wearing dark makeup that only seemed to amplify her otherworldly beauty. I studied her as she looked back at me curiously, though I could still see hints of amusement dancing in her eyes. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice no louder than a whisper, even though I had intended to speak at a normal volume. "I am Selena, the Titan goddess of the moon," she states, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Her voice was like the wind, gentle and loving. I imagine this must be what a mother's soothing voice sounds like. I barely remember mine. I used to recall her voice, how she looked, and even how she smelled like freshly cut roses. "I am the true creator of all werewolves," she continues. Even though I wasn't a werewolf, the goddess they believed in was taught to us humans, and she eventually became our goddess as well. But her answer only sparked more questions. Why am I here? Again, only a whisper. Why couldn't I speak any louder? I was starting to get frustrated by my own voice. "You, my dear, are very special. I come with a message. I know your life has been hard, and for that I am sorry, but you can help change the world. This is not what I meant to happen, and I need your help to fix it. My wolves are running rampant. I created them to love and help, not to hurt. A war is coming, and I fear my creations will not survive," she explained, her voice pleading with me to listen and believe. I was speechless. The only thing I could do was stare at her. I definitely had no urge to help the werewolves. "No way in hell," I finally said, breaking out of my sudden trance. I have spent a majority of my life in darkness, surrounded by nothing but those beasts you love so much. I've been alone and abandoned by everyone I have ever loved. I would rather die than help them. They mistreat me and use me as if I was nothing more than dirt beneath their shoes. I screamed at her, tears stinging my eyes. I had never said that out loud, but it felt great, like a weight was lifted slightly off my shoulders. She looked stunned for a moment, then a frown adorned her beautiful face, pity filling her eyes. And for that, I am truly sorry for all that has happened. It wasn't my intention, but you cannot change fate. Fate? What fate? My fate is to be used. If you are so powerful, Titan goddess of the moon, then why don't you fix your own mess? I question. I cannot undo all that has been done, but you can, she cryptically replies. I am not strong enough for what you ask of me, I said flatly, staring at the flowers at her feet, no longer wanting to look at her. You are stronger than you think, and don't worry, you won't be alone for much longer. With that final sentence, she slowly faded away, and I was once again left alone. I slowly slipped back into the darkness, away from the flowers that smelled so much like my mother. I bolted awake, instantly regretting the movement. I was still on the hard concrete floor. I slowly tried to sit up, my entire body throbbing with each movement. There was an old shower down here. I slowly lifted myself up and hobbled over to it. I removed my ruined clothes and took the coldest shower in the world. I stayed underwater until I felt clean. I walked over to the few clothes that I had, grabbed a pair of pants and a loose-fitting shirt, and attempted to put them on. My back protested the movement, aching from the previous day's punishment. With a grimace, I was finally able to dress myself. By the time I was done, tears were stinging my eyes. I reached up and patted my cheek and winced. No doubt my face was bruised and swollen. My right eye could barely open, and every blink was painful. My left eye burned. This is the circle of my life. I wake up, I cook and clean and get punished, then I wake up and do it all over again. I slowly make my way up the stairs into the pack house. Immediately, I go to make breakfast. Because I didn't make lunch or dinner yesterday because of my injuries, I know I am going to be in trouble again. I make the pack their usual breakfast, pancakes, waffles, eggs, bacon, and bagels. As the pack comes down to eat, I hurry away to begin cleaning the pack house. I wouldn't want to run into any of the ranking members again accidentally. I start with the common areas, my arms and legs already screaming for a break. Every movement ends with me grimacing, but I know I can't stop now. I have to get my work done. When I was finally done with my chores, I headed back into the kitchen to prepare lunch. There is never a break in this house, just one thing right after the other. As I was entering the kitchen, I was knocked down. I looked up and saw the future Alpha Joshua. Almost instantly, my entire body trembled. It is just my natural reaction to werewolves at this point, and I hate how often I keep running into him. With one swift motion, I was pinned against the wall. Again. I didn't even have time to react due to werewolf speed. Please, Alpha, I managed to get out. But it only made him hold on tighter, and a cruel grin spread across his face. Black dots started to cloud my vision, blocking out Joshua's face. Mate. I glance over to where the voice was coming from. A blurry figure started heading in my direction. My body reached out my hand towards the figure as if an instinct had taken over. My body went limp, and then for the second time in 2 days, everything went dark.
Chapter 4. Driving was a bad idea. The whole reason I came on this trip was to let my wolf be free. I shouldn't even have brought the car with us, I should just have run along with them. Forgive us, Alpha, but in order for you to remain protected, you must stay within the vehicle, my beta, Caden, explained. Are you saying I need protection? Am I not the king? I shout, my dominance and alpha tone leaking into my voice. I watch my beta and gamma squirm around in their seats. A small smirk forms on my face as they sputter for an answer. Gentlemen, relax. I am only messing with you, I say, amused. They both release a sigh of relief. Because we had left late in the morning, we should arrive at the Bloodlust pack at about lunchtime, and with any luck, we should leave before dinner is ready. About halfway to the bloodlust pack, my wolf started to get antsy again. Even though it had practically taken me an hour to get him to settle and be calm, I knew I should have stopped and let him out. Now I have to deal with his moodiness. Something is wrong, he voiced. Could you be more specific? I inquired. Something, he vaguely replied. That's helpful, I thought bitterly. I swear, talking to him is like having a conversation with my anxiety, which ironically usually starts to spiral after a conversation with him. By the time we finally arrived at the pack, two things were aggravating me. One, my wolf, who decided to be antsy and cryptic, which is unfortunately like him. The other thing was that I was starving because of the pathetic excuse of a rogue attack this morning. I didn't get a chance to eat before this trip. As we came to a stop in front of their pack house, we immediately got out of the cars. It felt good to stretch my legs. We walked up the stairs of the pack house. A few pack members bowed their heads as we walked by. Some even cowered away in fear. They were definitely up to something. I could feel it in my gut, which only irritated me more. When we got to the door, it was already being opened by an Omega, and in the doorway stood a very nervous-looking Beta. He was practically sweating bullets. They were definitely up to something. We weren't expecting you today, Alpha King. Won't you please come in? The Beta asked while fidgeting with his fingers. I said nothing in response, only walked further into the house. Before I managed to take more than 5 steps, I was overwhelmed by the most alluring scent, chocolate and strawberries, but it was almost overwhelmed by the smell of copper, the smell of blood. Mate, go to mate. What? Mate is hurt, find mate. And with that, I dart off in the direction of my mate's scent, with several of my warriors following me still in wolf form, along with my Beta Caden and my Gamma Dante. I was soon led into the pack kitchen. What I saw, I couldn't comprehend. That pathetic excuse of an alpha son was strangling my mate. The sight itself made my blood boil, and that was saying something because, out of my 3 brothers, I'm usually the one with the level head. Suddenly, I couldn't hold back anymore. All I saw was red, then I lost control of my wolf. Mate. Mine. I thundered, every bit of my power and authority dripping from my voice. Alpha Joshua jumped back, startled by my voice, my mate dropping to the floor in the process. A slight wince and whimper came from her. He will pay for that. I barely acknowledged when Alpha Joshua started to back away. I merely focused on my injured mate as she reached her small hand out for me. I am coming, sweetheart. I need to clear a few things up. With one quick motion, I was holding the scum of the earth, Alpha Joshua, by his neck. I didn't even wait to hear his pleas, I snapped his neck. I bent down and scooped up my mate. Sparks erupted even through the clothes she wore, if you could even call them that. She was barely skin and bones. She looked so small and delicate. She had bruises covering her face, her jaw looked swollen, but even then, she was still the most beautiful being I had ever seen. One of her eyes was almost sealed shut. She had several purple handprints around her neck. Based on her face, I can only imagine what the rest of her body must look like. As I was holding her, I started to feel something wet coming from her back, and the scent of blood immediately got stronger while her heartbeat simultaneously got weaker. Dante. Mind link the hospital and tell them to get the royal wing ready. I snapped to my Gamma. Yes, Alpha, he replied curtly. Caden. Come with me. Driving is going to take too long. I am going to shift and run with her to the hospital, I explained. I cradled my mate's limp body as we walked towards the front of the pack house, passing several stunned faces along the way, but I couldn't care less about them. They can be sure they will get what they deserve in time. But now, the only thing that mattered to me was the limp girl I held in my arms. I gently passed my mate to my Beta, then shift into my midnight black wolf. A few of my warriors shifted as well. Caden placed my mate onto my back, making sure she wouldn't fall off. As soon as she was settled, we darted off in the direction of the pack hospital. On the way there, I opened the mind link between my two brothers and me. They needed to be aware of the situation. They would also want to be with her and help her heal. Guys, I found our mate. I blurred out, barely containing my excitement. What? Shouted Xavier. When? Where? How? Lucas asked, appearing to get louder with every question he asked. I found her at that filthy bloodlust pack. I need you guys to meet me at the hospital in the royal wing. What? They both shouted in unison. I quickly blocked them both off, needing to focus on the precious limp body on my back. Because we were running instead of driving, it only took us about 45 minutes to finally reach the hospital. We came to a stop at the hospital entrance, where doctors and nurses were already waiting for us. They took her off my back, and it took all of my restraint not to growl at them. They placed her on a gurney and wheeled her off into the hospital, me following closely behind. All in a blur, we were in the royal wing on the highest floor. As the doctors and nurses took her into a separate room, we passed my brothers along the way. Alpha King Lucas's POV. I smelled her before I saw her. She smelled like fresh strawberries and the sweetest chocolate. But there was something else mixed in, blood. Mate is hurt. My wolf whimpered and whined. Xavier and I shot out of our seats when we heard the commotion coming from down the hall. Doctors and nurses were surrounding a gurney. They were surrounding our mate. As they passed by Xavier and me, I only caught a glimpse of her, but she looked so fragile. We saw Damien still in his wolf form. I tossed him some cloves, which he caught in his mouth. He went into the closest room he could find. Unfortunately, that room was occupied, which resulted in a woman screaming. After Xavier and I finally stopped laughing, we saw Damien walking over to where we were. What happened to her? I asked Damien, my voice a barely audible whisper, but I knew he could hear me. I don't know. When I got there, she was being held up by her throat. I didn't really want to stop and ask questions, my main thought was to save her, he said flatly. I just nodded back in response. I didn't really know what else to do. We finally found our mate, but she is hurt. We should have looked harder, searched longer. After a painfully agonizing 5 hours, the doctor came out. ALPHAS, we have stabilized her. She had numerous broken bones and was severely malnourished. We had to stitch up the lacerations on her back, we believe they were caused by a whip. We have got her on several IVs to help speed up the healing process. At the moment she is asleep, but it is her call for when she decides to wake up, the words rushed out of his mouth. We all just nodded dumbly to the doctor, then we slowly walked into the room. My eyes immediately went to the small person in the middle of the king-size bed. There were tubes and wires all around her and an annoying beeping. I walked toward the right side of the bed, pulled up a chair, and gently grabbed her small hand and held it. My eyes never leave her soft face. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xavier had done the same thing on her left side, doing his best to avoid the tubes and wires. And Damien was at the edge of the bed just staring at her as well. We stayed like that for who knows how long, only ever getting up to relieve ourselves. What a twist of cruel fate, we find our mate, but she is injured and hurt. Those in the bloodlust pack would pay dearly for this.
Chapter 5. I was floating along on a sea of nothing. If this is death, I don't know why people fear it. It's pure bliss. I am free. I am finally free. But this doesn't feel right. I should be happy, overwhelmed, but I'm not. I'm just numb. In the distance, I see what appears to be a little speck of light. It started getting bigger. Is it moving towards me, or am I moving towards it? What is that phrase that most people say? Don't go towards the light? I wonder why. Then, all at once, without warning, I was thrust forward, towards the light. I had no way of stopping, so I merely gave in to the light. It was as if I were forced back into feeling, remembering, and living. All the pain and suffering came rushing back. I was alive again. Beep, beep, beep. Where am I? That sound is definitely not one I should be hearing. Nothing in the basement has ever made a beeping sound. and the only thing I could listen to is this incessant beeping noise. What the hell is that? And how do I turn it off? I quickly jerked open my eyes only to shut them as bright lights blinded me. I slowly tried to open my eyes again. The bright lights once again blinded me, but I rapidly blinked my eyes to hopefully get adjusted. When my eyes finally adjusted, they were met with a plain white ceiling. That definitely wasn't the basement I was used to. I tilted my head up so I could see more of where I was, then I saw them. I felt fear drag its icy finger down my spine, making me shiver. I wasn't alone. 3 men were sitting around my bed. From what I could see of them, they were huge. Far bigger than any human, not that I've met many of them. Werewolves. The only explanation for their sheer size alone. They must have been alphas as well because I could feel the power radiating off of them. At that realization, I started to panic, which, for some reason, made the beeping speed up. I was alone in a room with 3 werewolves. The beeping got louder and faster. A door I hadn't realized was there suddenly burst open, welcoming in what looked like 2 males and 3 females. The men wore white coats with shiny things around their necks. The women wore odd-looking shirts and matching pants. But one thing was for sure about these new people. They definitely weren't human. More wolves, great. At the sound of the sudden commotion, the 3 wolves at the end and sides of the bed bolted awake. They practically bounded out of their chairs and turned to face the 2 males and 3 females that had entered the room, growls echoing from their chests. I pulled my arms and legs back, circling them around my legs and pulling them into my chest. The quick movements seemed to have stirred my old injuries, causing a whimper to escape my lips. At that sound, all 8 heads in the room snapped to look at me. The 3 white-headed wolves looked at me with a mixture of relief, concern, and something else, what I didn't know. But just being surrounded by this many wolves, and 3 with such immense power and control within this world, became too much for me to take. I started to sob and shake uncontrollably. The beeping grew louder, and the world began to fade away. Voices called out for me, but I welcomed the darkness, no longer wanting to be the main subject in a room full of high-ranking werewolves. Beep, beep, beep. I slowly blinked open my eyes once the beeping had finally reached my ears once again, and was greeted with the same white room. The only difference was that I was alone this time, and with that knowledge, a sigh of relief left my lips. I took this chance to sit up and actually look around the room, and holy cow, was this place big. So much bigger than I first thought. But then again, maybe it was the huge werewolves taking up most of the space. Hopefully, I'll never have to run into them again. A floor-to-ceiling window filled an entire wall. There was a sofa and a few chairs, a large TV, and 2 doors in the room. One I remembered was the one the 2 guys and 3 girls came from, so my guess is the other one is the bathroom. I vaguely remember going to the hospital when I was younger and still with my parents. It was one winter when I got really sick. But the room we were put into was nowhere near as big or as fancy as this one. The door opened, and one of the white-haired guys from earlier strolled in. Panic overwhelmed my body. Seeing this, the guy rushed over to my bed. He was somewhat close to me, leaning worriedly over the side of the bed to get a good look at me. Panic and worry filled his eyes. His eyes, the bluest eyes I had ever seen, but the thing that really stuck out was a scar he had going down the left side of his face. Hey, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt you, he said in a soothing tone. I just stared at him, bewildered. Why was he being nice and comforting? Werewolves are cruel and terrifying creatures. They show no remorse and hurt without cause, especially alphas. Mate, what's wrong? Are you hurt? He asked, looking over at me. His face scrunched up like he was trying to solve a problem. I didn't realize it, but I had begun to cry. He made a move with his hand, and instinctively, I lifted my arms to protect my face. After a moment or two without feeling the hit, I moved my arms away from my face. The hurt look on his face made my chest ache. We stared at each other for a moment, neither of us moving, until he cleared his throat. My name is Lucas. Can you please tell me your name, mate? He asked almost pleadingly. Rosalie, I answered in a voice so quiet I thought he wouldn't be able to hear it, and that was kind of what I was hoping for. Rosalie, that's a very pretty name, he responded, right before his eyes glazed over. I remember what that was, mind-linking. Werewolves could talk to each other through their minds. Creepy. The white-haired Alpha Lucas, as he introduced himself, blinked his eyes back into focus. The doctor is going to come and take a look at your wounds, okay? He asked me. I numbly nodded my head. It was better not to go against this male. He looked as if he could snap me in half. A few seconds later, one of the previous males came in, still in a white coat, with that odd silver thing around his neck. I was barely aware of what I now know to be the doctor checking me over. All right, I would say you are all ready to go home. Your body is still healing, so no strenuous movements and make sure to eat. You are very malnourished, the doctor said to me. Once again, I just nodded numbly to him. I looked over at Lucas again, and his eyes were once again glazed over, not that I minded much. Having a werewolf's attention didn't usually end well for me. All right, I've mind-linked the driver so we can head down and go home, which is where my brothers are waiting for us, okay? He rambled off. Looking at me expectantly, I nodded my head and looked down, shaking a little bit. There were others, and why were they waiting for me? Then I suddenly felt a warm hand tilting my head up, and I locked eyes with those gorgeous blue eyes that belonged to Lucas. You don't need to fear me, mate. I wouldn't dream of hurting you. Ever. We have waited a long time for you, and we're not letting go, so you're going to have to get used to us. Because you are ours no matter what, he said slowly and smoothly, making sure I heard every word. Why do you keep calling me mate? I whispered back. Because you are our mate. Silly, he replied, amusement clearly evident in his voice. Who is R? I asked. As far as I was aware, werewolves only had one mate, and if they had human mates, they were usually low-level wolves. Me and my two brothers. We're triplets, so we all share one mate, which is you. They were the two other guys in this room when you first woke up. He responded like it was the most casual thing in the world. I was baffled, stunned. Dear? Headlights? Hi, I'm Rosalie. I had mates, 3 werewolf mates. But why didn't they look lower class? They were huge. They were bigger than any alpha I had ever seen. All right, save your questions for later. We have to go, he said. He then gently lifted me up, bridal style, into his arms. He picked me up like I weighed nothing, which I probably did. As soon as we left the room, we were greeted with 4 buff guys all in black suits, who, upon seeing Lucas, all bowed their heads. Odd. In no time, we were in a big black machine with 4 wheels. I've heard these were called cars. Humans once used these to get everywhere. They are still used, but only the rich and powerful have them, usually only alphas and betas. As we drove along, I began to see a town. Werewolves walked along the street, some in human form, some in their wolf form. The city slowly faded away until we came across this gigantic castle. The only people I had ever heard about living in a castle were the royal pack. Oh. Thankfully, we didn't stop at the castle, but drove a little further away, so maybe they weren't from the royal pack. Until we came across another castle, not nearly as big as the previous one, but you could still tell someone or 3 powerful someones lived there. The car pulled up in front of the house. Lucas got out and jogged around, came and opened my door, then picked me up bridal style and started up the stairs into the mini castle. Well, into the wolf's den I go. Chapter 6. As Lucas carried me into the castle they apparently live in, my breath hitched. It was absolutely stunning. A grand staircase and a huge chandelier were dripping with sparkling diamonds. As I was inspecting the inside of the place, my fear crept back in about them being part of the royal pack. They had to be. There was no other explanation for what I was seeing. It looked like something out of the fairy tales my mother used to read to me when I was younger. As I was scanning the room, my eyes met with 2 others. The same vibrant blue. These must be the 2 other brothers that Lucas was talking about. They resembled Lucas, with the same blue eyes and white hair, just styled differently. And they were both just as big as Lucas, just as I remembered, and my shaking began to get worse. One had straight white hair that fell into his eyes a little bit. It was messy, as if he had spent days running his hands through it, and he had a short beard. The other had his hair slicked back, not a single hair out of place. The power that I had felt earlier in the hospital room definitely wasn't a fluke. Even here, I could still feel and practically suffocate at the power they were radiating. More alphas, great. At that realization, I almost immediately lowered my head, knowing that alphas hate it when you look in their eyes. They take it as a challenge. I tried to make myself appear smaller and invisible, but it was hard to do, given that Lucas was still holding me. I heard 2 growls as soon as I lowered my head, my shaking only increasing tenfold. "Mate, you don't need to submit to us. You're our equal," a new voice spoke. I hadn't realized they had moved closer to Lucas and me. Based on how close their voices sounded, I could reach out and touch them. I raised my head ever so slightly so I could see who was talking. When I did, I was met with 2 very happy alphas. They had huge grins on their faces as if they had just won some ultimate prize, or maybe I was lunch, and they were just hungry. "Mate, I am Damien, and this idiot is Xavier. And your name is?" the one with the slicked back hair and beard asked. When I didn't reply and only kept my head down low, Lucas answered for me. They both repeated my name. The way they said it sent a shiver down my spine, and I didn't know whether that was a good or a bad thing. Maybe it was just cold in here? Sensing that I was uneasy, Lucas started making his way up the giant staircase. Because I still hadn't been put down yet, I was forced to go wherever he decided to take me. As we walked along, I saw the halls filled with countless photos and paintings, mainly of the 3 boys nearby. Some were friends, others were possible family members. In almost every picture, they were smiling, but their eyes looked so dead. It made my chest ache, somehow, to see them unhappy. When Lucas finally stopped walking and climbing the stairs, we were on the 3rd floor of the house. He walked into the most oversized bedroom I had ever seen. The walls were white, with black and gold accents scattered throughout the room. Then my eyes landed on the thing that took up most of the room, the bed. It was about 3 times the size of a king-size bed. It looked as if it were meant for more than one person. I heard someone clear their throat. Xavier and Damien were standing next to me, and Lucas was in front of the doorway. This is our room, and now it's yours too. We're going to let you get some rest now, and one of us will come up to get you when dinner is ready, okay?" Xavier asked while nervously scratching the back of his head. Though he posed it as a question, I don't think it was up for discussion. Lucas walked over to the bed and gently placed me on it. Or should I say he placed me down on a cloud. I couldn't help the sighs that escaped my lips as I leaned down on the mattress. I could hear some small chuckles around the room. Lucas tucked me in, and within seconds, I was out like a light, falling into a dreamless sleep. I was awakened by little tingles running down my face. It was soothing and peaceful. I cracked open one eye to see the cause of the tingles and sparks, and was met once more with electrifying blue eyes. Damien was hunched over, running a few fingers across my face, being careful to avoid the bruises. "Come on, love, we need to get some weight on you," Damien said playfully. I was going to argue and tell him I wasn't hungry, but the little rumble from my stomach shut me up. Damien let out a laugh and scooped me up into his arms, the sparks coming back as he nuzzled his head into my neck. I would have to ask them about the sparks and tingles, and why I only got them when I touched them. I was still shaking as he walked down the hall. I have never been this close to an alpha without them hitting or punishing me, so I was still unnerved. But so far, none of them has laid a threatening hand on me. It is nice, it is different, and I think I like that. We were back on the ground floor. Damien took a few twists and turns, and suddenly we were in a beautiful dining room. The walls were a light shade of blue-green, with little swirls of gold, plants, and birds along them. Xavier and Lucas were already waiting for us. I sat across from Xavier and next to Damien, while Lucas sat next to Xavier. Once we all sat down, a few maids, none of whom were human, came out with plates full of food. 3 of them were piled high, and I knew that they were for the 3 werewolves at the table. My plate had a lot more food than I was ever used to. I didn't think I would be able to eat it all. "Just eat what you can, doll," Xavier leaned over and said as I nervously looked at my plate. For the start of the meal, we all ate silently. I was taking the most minor bites I could, even though I wanted to shovel the food in. If there is one thing I've learned about werewolves, it is never to trust them, even if they give you food, but I could feel their stares on me the whole time. Until one of them broke the silence, they began telling me about their pack and their families. They also said to me who I will be meeting when I am well enough to do so. While they were talking and joking around, I learned a few things. 1, that there were a lot of people in this pack, both human and werewolf, and because their pack is so big, they have 3 betas and 3 gammas. 2, they aren't as terrible as I thought they were going to be. And 3, they're a few years older than me and have been waiting for their mate for about 7 years. Well, I guess they've been waiting for me. That is going to take a while to wrap my head around. I am mated to the Alpha Kings. I have lots of words for that damn goddess. After dinner and their conversation, with my few head nods here and there, my eyes started to droop. I was barely aware of Damien picking me up and carrying me back to the bedroom. I was even less aware of the 3 warm bodies that climbed in with me. Chapter 7. Darkness. Oh, how I hate the dark, but it seems to cling to me. How unfortunate. I glance around this seemingly endless night when I see a dot of white. I get an odd sense of déjà vu. This is just like when I was on the verge of death. Was the food poisoned? Light. I rush towards it, hoping it is the light from the hospital room. Maybe I have been saved again? Suddenly, I am bound by my arms and legs in chains in the basement. Oh no, memories upon memories come crashing down on me. The punishments replay in my head like a scene in a movie that won't end. All the strikes, broken bones, and blood. So much blood. I am surrounded by complete darkness, but I know he is there watching, waiting. I try to keep my tears at bay, knowing they only excite him more. Monsters love tears. I can feel his eyes on me, like a predator circling its prey right before it goes in for the kill. Worthless. Pathetic. Human. Every word dripping with venom, with the hate of 1,000 burning suns. The tears I have been holding back finally spill over. Growls and roars fill the silence, mixing in with my sobs, creating the perfect atmosphere for my worst nightmare. Golden eyes stare into my soul, the growls getting louder, more intense, completely drowning out my sobs that have now become screams and pleas. Then all at once, they pounce. I am shaken awake, 2 sets of piercing blue eyes staring at me worriedly. My throat feels raw as if I have been screaming for an eternity. Tears still steadily stream down my face. Lucas tries to wipe my tears away, but it doesn't help. I feel a pair of strong arms holding me, while another hand runs up and down my back. I am being held, bridal style, in someone's arms. It is so soothing, and it has been so long since I have been held. I accept their touch. The sparks make me realize that it is the alphas all around me. Even though I am away from my old pack, they can't seem to leave me alone. Even goes as far as to haunt my dreams and ruin my sleep. I rarely ever slept in the pack house. The only time I did was if I blacked out from blood loss or from the pain, which was so frequent it became almost routine. Sparks erupt from the contact. It is relaxing and comforting. Wanting to know where the source was coming from, though I am sure I already knew, I looked up and saw a worried Xavier looking back down at me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Damien holding a glass of water, staring at me. A frown adorned his face. Why do they look so upset? Because they care about you, my conscience answered. Not possible. Doll, are you all right? Xavier asked. I am fine, I croaked out. Damien handed the glass of water to me, which I greedily drank down. But my answer only seemed to set something off in Lucas, because within seconds, he was springing off the bed and started pacing, on the verge of shouting. The hell you are. You wouldn't stop screaming and crying for almost 15 minutes. Lucas yelled. I flinched at his voice, which made him instantly soften. Lucas, Damien warned. Lucas and Damien stared at each other, possibly trying to make the other back down. I wasn't sure. Due to the yelling, my shaking increased tenfold. But at this point, I never stopped shaking thanks to these werewolves. Lucas looked at me with a regret-filled face. That couldn't be possible. Werewolves can't feel anything. They are emotionless murderers. They cannot be that different from the others. What was that? Nightmare. Xavier whispered to me. I shook my head no. Then what? They questioned in unison, their attention peaked, readily awaiting my answer. So I gave them the truth, knowing that a werewolf could smell a lie a mile away, and Lucas was already on the verge of going off. Memories, I responded, lowering my gaze to my lap, no longer having the energy or strength to deal with them. We sat in silence for a little while. They appeared to be having a staring contest, but I knew they were really mind-linking, no doubt talking about me. Xavier continued to rub my back and hold me. Even being in a room with 3 alphas, I eventually drifted off to sleep once again, feeling safe for the first time in a long time, in some bizarre way. I woke up a few hours later, cold and alone. I felt better now that I didn't have 3 werewolves near me, mentally at least, but there was a dull ache that started in my heart for some reason. Maybe I was slowly dying, just my luck. Maybe they already got tired of me? I glanced around the room again, and damn, was it big. It was fit for a king, or in this case, several. This place was pristine. Not a spot of dirt could be found anywhere, and it looked as if no one had set foot in the room in years. That is how clean it looked. My stomach grumbling brought me out of the trance I seemed to get caught up in. Would they even feed me? I untangle myself from the dark blankets on the bed and throw my legs over the side, preparing to get up. Slowly but surely, I managed to stand on my own 2 feet. I am slightly shaking, but I will take the win for now. I take a few painful steps when little black dots start to cloud my vision, but I hastily blink them away, determined to do this on my own. If I don't, I may never escape from here. I make my way to the door I saw we entered last night. As I exit the room, I hear faint voices coming from down the hall. My feet, apparently having a mind of their own, mindlessly wander towards the voices. As I get closer, I can tell they are men. When I get close enough to hear what they are saying, I recognize the voices as Damien, Xavier, and Lucas. We need to get closer to her, gain her trust. It will help with the transition, Xavier said. I could hear a grunt of approval, possibly from Lucas. Well, I am probably not her favorite person, especially after last night, Lucas grumbled back. No, we need to give her own space and let her adjust on her own. Didn't you see how badly she was shaking when we were near her? Damien asked incredulously. They both scoffed in reply before it went dead silent. Did they walk away? I moved around the corner to see where they went. I wanted to know more because obviously they were talking about me. As I rounded the corner, I was met with a smug expression from Damien, as if to say, I told you so, while Lucas and Xavier appeared happy yet confused. At least they didn't look mad. So we take it this means you want food? Damien said, amusement playing in his voice. I nodded my reply. I haven't been fed this many times in a long time, but I didn't want to risk offending them. Better to be safe than sorry. Damien picked me up bridal style, which was probably a blessing in disguise because I was already swaying on my feet. He started walking in the direction I was already heading, Lucas and Xavier staying in step behind us. As we walked down the hallway and stairs, I got a much better view of the house. I was wrong to say they were rich. They weren't just rich, they were incredibly wealthy. They actually didn't seem too bad. Maybe they aren't so bad? For werewolves, at least. Chapter 8. After Damien had scooped me up, I was once again forced to be carried to wherever they wanted me to go. Hopefully, they were bringing me food, but I didn't want to push my luck by asking for it. We finally came to a stop in the most oversized kitchen I have ever seen. It seemed to have brand new appliances and was so clean you could probably eat off the floor. Everything looked so shiny and new, as if no one had ever used it before. Damien set me down on a stool at the kitchen island. Lucas and Damien began moving through the kitchen, pulling out various ingredients. For beings as big as they were, they sure were graceful on their feet. Xavier came and sat next to me on a stool. I didn't look at him, but I could still feel his stare burning holes in the back of my head. I know you can feel me staring, so why won't you look at me, doll? Xavier asked from behind me. I lowered my head and turned so I was facing Xavier. I peeked at him through my lashes, trying to gauge his reaction. He didn't appear upset, just curious. There, I mumbled. You know that's not what I meant. Now, why won't you look at me? Or any of us? He asked. His tone was playful, but I could tell he was serious about the question. I was always told when I was younger that werewolves don't like to be looked in the eyes because they take it as a challenge or even an insult, I replied, my voice shaking as I tried to raise it above a whisper. Realization dawned on him almost immediately, his face somehow softening even more. He lowered his head down onto his hands on the kitchen island we were seated at, and he peeked up at me. Similar to what I had just done, but I don't think he was doing it to mock me. "Oh, honey, you're our mate. You are our equal. Some may even say you're above us. You could do whatever you want with us, and we could never get mad. You could ask us anything in the world, and we would never get upset. And if you look at us, we don't take it as a challenge," Xavier said while looking me dead in the eyes. He said it slowly, enunciating every word, trying to make sure I understood it all. "Anything?" I asked cautiously. "Yep," Damien said from the stove, still focused on making breakfast, while Lucas was in front of Xavier and me on the other side of the island, prepping other food. Okay, well, how did you get that scar?" I directed my question to Lucas, even lifting my hand to point out the scar. Even though my body was shaking at asking such a daring question, for some reason, I felt oddly comfortable enough to ask them. I also really wanted to see if they truly meant I could ask anything I ever wanted to, and they wouldn't get mad. Lucas grabbed my hand that was seemingly frozen in midair and brought it to his face so I could feel the scar. It felt old. It reminded me of some of the wounds on my body from when I was younger. The scar wasn't the first thing I felt, though. The first thing I felt was sparks from the skin contact, like a bunch of little butterfly kisses. This feeling is addictive. "I got my scar from a fight with a vampire when I was a teenager, probably about your age. Werewolves don't scar from most things, except from a vampire," he said softly. "Did you win?" I whispered back, my curiosity getting the better of me once again. "Yes," he replied, his pride shining through along with a big smile adorning his face. Realizing I still had my hand on his face, I quickly removed it, my hand suddenly feeling cold at the loss of contact. Before I completely pulled my hand back, Lucas promptly grabbed it and held it with my palm facing his face. He brought it towards him and kissed my palm before giving my hand back. A furious blush crossed my face, causing the three of them to laugh. The sound made the house shake, warming me down to my very soul. After a few more minutes of comfortable silence, Damien brought a few plates over to where Xavier and I were sitting. He was making pancakes. Lucas brought over some cut strawberries along with some syrup and butter. I had 3 giant pancakes on my plate. I looked at the others and saw the mini mountains on their plates, and I knew they were going to eat every bite. Werewolves and their monstrous appetites. After a few seconds of nobody eating, I looked at them in confusion. They appeared to be waiting for something before they started eating. And they were looking at me for that something. "What?" I asked, my voice still slightly shaking. "We're waiting for you to take the first bite. It is customary for the Luna to eat before the Alpha eats, or Alphas in this case," Damien explained. "Oh," I said, dumbfounded. I guess last night they did the same thing, but I was so hungry I didn't even wait. I just dug straight into my food. I picked up my fork and took a piece of strawberry from my plate. Once I took the first bite, I instantly sighed in delight. I hadn't had fresh fruit in the longest time. I almost forgot how good it tasted. The 3 males in the room seemed to perk up with that sound. When I looked at them again, they had the look of pure adoration and a hint of something else I couldn't pinpoint. They dug into the mini mountains of pancakes, not too long after I had taken the first bite. Shortly after we started eating, the doorbell rang, letting the house's occupants know someone was at the door. Xavier got up to see who it was. When he left, I could see Damien and Lucas listening to the conversation, trying to see who was at the front door. When Xavier came back, he was holding a little girl, maybe no older than 7. Behind him were 2 older werewolves with very dominating auras, the former Alpha King and former Luna Queen. Their faces were immediately recognizable. I had seen them a lot when I was growing up, and the odd thing was, it seemed they hadn't aged a bit since back then. My body started shaking on its own accord as I willed myself to disappear into thin air. I felt a pair of hands rubbing up and down my arms. When I looked up, I was met with a scar-filled face. Lucas was trying to comfort me. When my shaking somewhat subsided, that was when the former Luna Queen decided to approach. She released a squeal and pulled me out of Lucas's embrace and into her own. "Let me get a good look at you. Aren't you just the cutest thing? You are so beautiful. You have the most gorgeous green eyes I have ever seen. Much too skinny, though. We'll have to fatten you up if I want some grandchildren, and soon, I hope," the former Luna Queen rambled on. Her last statement caused another horrifying blush to color my face. No doubt I was a lovely shade of tomato by now. "Mother, please, you are scaring her," Damien said, coming to save me from his mother. "Oh, pish-posh, I am only getting a look at her," the former Luna Queen defended. "Mommy, I want to see her," the little girl, still in Xavier's arms, who I now knew to be their little sister, exclaimed. Xavier brought her over to me, and at that exact moment, the former Alpha King decided to look at me as well, finally. The first thing they both did was take a deep inhale. "Like father, like daughter. You're human," they both said in unison. Oh. Chapter 9. "You're human," they said in unison. The room got deathly silent. You could hear a pin drop. Nobody dared to move. We were all watching each other, seeing who would make the first move. My family has never opposed human mates, because it was simply the way of the moon goddess. More specifically, our mother has never been against them. Our father never really had an opinion, but then again, I guess that is because we have never found our mate before. But we had no idea how our father would react to us mating someone other than a powerful Alpha's daughter. Initially, we wanted to wait for our parents to meet Rosalie once she had adjusted to werewolf life. Or even when she became Luna, and we had already marked her, that way our father couldn't force us to mate with another she-wolf. Not that he had that kind of power in the first place, but nonetheless. At this point, we had no say in the matter, and I didn't really care. My only goal was to protect Rosalie, even if that meant going through my father. I glanced over at my brothers. They both had nervous looks on their faces, no doubt mirroring my own. My father still had an unreadable expression. I couldn't tell if he disapproved of her. He seemed neutral. Years of being the king have taught him well. He never lets his face give away his opinion. I still had my hands on Rosalie's arms, trying to soothe her gently. My father and sister's last comment definitely terrified her. Her shaking had gotten 10 times worse than before. "What happened to your face?" Sagara asked, no malice detected in her voice, even reaching out to try to touch Rosalie. She was talking about the bruises all over her face. They had somewhat healed, at least since she had been near us, but they were still noticeable. We just didn't want to mention them in case she was sensitive about them. Besides, it doesn't matter what she looks like. "I was punished in my old pack," Rosalie answered Sagara, even though it took effort on Rosalie's part to answer a high-ranking wolf, even one as cute and young as Sagara. Unintentionally, my brothers and I growled at Rosalie's statement, making my blood boil, almost causing me to shift right there in the kitchen. But little sparks coming from the shaking figure in my arms kept me grounded. I kissed the top of her head to show her I wasn't mad at her, only at what she had to go through. My dad still said nothing more, only continuing to stare at Rosalie, almost like he was studying her or even analyzing her. It made my wolf stand at attention in case he needed to defend his mate. "I don't approve of you with my sons. I think you are weak, and I strongly believe humans aren't meant to rule, even at a strong wolf side. But I have faith in the moon goddess and her decision, so I will give you a chance to change my mind, especially about you humans," my father finally said. With a final huff, he took my sister and walked out of the kitchen, heading for the front door. My sister gave a slight wave to Rosalie as our father took her away. "I will have a talk with him. You deserve to be happy with your mate," my mom whispered to my brothers and me, winking as she left the kitchen to go after our father. Well, that was exciting. "I don't know about you guys, but I need a nap after that," Xavier said, trying to lighten the mood. "Well, I know something we can do. Rosalie needs clothes. Not that we don't love to see you in ours, but it's not very queenly," Damien suggested, shaking his head at her. I looked down at Rosalie, absolutely loving the fact that she was covered in our clothes, which meant she was covered in our scent. Until we mark her, that is a good way to ward off any males. "Okay, off to the mall. Xavier shouts, obviously still trying to make Rosalie more comfortable. What is a mall? Rosalie asked, looking towards Xavier. It is a big building with a bunch of other stores in it, so you don't have to drive from place to place. You can just go to one place but get different things, Xavier responded. Rosalie nodded her head, letting us know she understood. Taking that as my go-ahead, I scooped Rosalie up into my arms and carried her up the flights of stairs and into our room. My brothers each departed for their own private bedrooms to get dressed, which meant I got some alone time with Rosalie. Just the thought of being alone with her was enough to make my wolf happy. I put her down on the bed and went in search of something more suitable for her to wear in public. I came out with a white undershirt and a pale blue long-sleeve button-up shirt for her. I also managed to find a pair of leggings that might be a little too big for her, but they were the best I could find. I gave her the clothes, and she mumbled a small thank you before scurrying into the bathroom to change. As Rosalie was changing in the bathroom, I went into the closet to put on a more appropriate outfit. I put on an all-black suit with no tie. Seeing that Rosalie still wasn't done in the bathroom, I went and knocked on the door to make sure she was okay. Hey, Rosalie, you okay in there? I asked, trying not to sound too worried. Yes, I am fine, she answered back, sounding a little out of breath. Then, remembering her injuries, I realized she must have been having trouble trying to get dressed without hurting herself. I cursed myself for being selfish and not thinking about her well-being. Do you need help getting dressed? I know your injuries may make it a little hard to do by yourself, I said through the bathroom door. Yes, I heard her whisper. If it wasn't for my werewolf hearing, I might have missed it. I opened the door and found Rosalie in only our shirt and no pants. I picked up the leggings and helped her into them. Once that was done, I told her to turn around and lift up her arms. I slowly removed the shirt, trying to be as gentle as possible. Once the shirt was off, I got a full view of her back, which was almost completely covered in bandages. The bandages even wrapped around the front of her body, keeping everything covered. I picked up the white undershirt and slowly put it on Rosalie, then took the long-sleeve shirt and put it on her. She held her arms out to the side, the sleeves going past her fingertips. I rolled up my sleeves so she could use her hands. I looked her up and down, realizing I'd forgotten something: shoes. I gently picked her up and moved her towards the bed. Once I sat her down, my brothers walked in, both in suits. Damien wore a dark blue suit without a tie, and Xavier wore a gray suit without a tie. Damien, carrying a bag with him, walked towards Rosalie and pulled a little shoebox out of the bag. He got down and put a pair of black flats on her feet. Well, at least one of us is always prepared. There, now we can go get you some clothes, Damien said, a bright smile on his face. Chapter 10. After putting on my shoes, the guys herded me out of the giant castle they called a house and into the driveway, where 2 big cars waited for us. Along with 7 other big guys who, in any other situation, I would have run screaming from, but compared to Xavier, Lucas, and Damien, they seemed relatively harmless and kind of small, too. The 7 other scary guys immediately bowed upon seeing Xavier, Lucas, and Damien. Instead of rising immediately afterward, they stayed hunched over until Damien said, "Rise." Lucas and Xavier then went down the steps to talk to the 7 men. Meanwhile, Damien decided to keep me company, or maybe he was afraid I would run off, not that I could in my state. While Lucas and Xavier were talking to the big, scary men, I pulled on Damien's sleeve to get his attention, not wanting to draw the attention of the other very scary werewolves. "Yes, my love?" he asked me, a warm blush spreading across my face to my ears from the nickname he used. I motioned for him to bend down so he could hear me, although with his werewolf hearing, he probably didn't need to. "Who are the other people?" I whispered back. "They are our bodyguards. They help keep us safe, and now they will help keep you safe," Damien said with a slight smile. "Why would 3 alphas need bodyguards? Who would be able to hurt them? Who would want to?" The last question brought an ache to my chest. The thought of one of them getting hurt made me upset. I didn't realize Damien was still staring at me until I felt a hand on my forehead trying to remove my stress lines. "While you are with us, you will never have to be scared or stressed," Damien bowed. This only seemed to cause my blush to return tenfold. I looked away from Damon's smoldering gaze, bringing my attention back over to the other two men as I tried to get my blush under control. Damien chuckled behind me, making goosebumps form all over my body, and I shuddered. I knew it wasn't from the cold. "Okay, we're all set and ready to go," Xavier hollered. "Doesn't he have a quieter setting?" I was once again herded into one of the cars. Lucas was driving, Xavier was in the passenger seat, and Damien and I were in the back seat. I looked out the car window and saw 3 large werewolves. I squealed and jumped back, scrambling towards Damien. "It is okay, you're safe, you're fine. Remember, those wolves are here to keep you safe, and no sane wolf would ever dare lay a harmful hand on their Luna," Damien rushed to explain while holding me. I peeked up towards Damien, seeing no malice in his eyes, only worry. Realizing what I had just done, apparently unconsciously, I decided to trust him. After all, he's yet to do anything to hurt me. I slowly released a breath, but I remained by Damon's side for the entirety of the car ride. He didn't seem to mind because about halfway through the trip, he wrapped one of his arms around me. When the car finally came to a stop, Lucas and Xavier were the first ones to exit the car. Damien got out of the car next, and I swiftly followed him out. Once we were out of the car, the 7 big men from earlier surrounded us. I tried to look and see where we were, but I had no idea. We were at this giant building, well, more like a big glass dome, so this was a mall. How strange. People were milling around, some carrying various bags. I was curious to see what was inside them. Lucas led the way, while Damien and Xavier walked on either side of me, and the 7 men spread out around us. Once we entered the mall, it was like all conversation stopped. People gawked and stared, some even pulled out little rectangular boxes and held them up to us, or rather not us, me. My curiosity getting the better of me, I once again tugged at Damon's shirt to get his attention, although I probably didn't need to because he was already staring at me. What are those little boxes people are holding up, and why are they pointing them at us? I asked, glancing around, wanting to make sure no one else was listening to our conversation. Well, the little boxes are called phones. They have the ability to call or communicate with other people who also have phones. They're pointing the phones at us because another ability phones have is the ability to record and take pictures, and because we're the royal family, people love taking pictures of us. And they want pictures of you because you are our mate, and for a long time people didn't think we had a mate. He responded with a wink. I felt my face heat up. I couldn't really think of a response, so I just dumbly responded, "Oh." We went into a few stores, as Xavier called them. We got me some pajamas, some sweaters, a few pairs of pants, and a ton of shirts and tops. They also got me some undergarments. I was so embarrassed that by the time we finally left that store, my face was 50 different shades of red. The trip was wearing me out, so Lucas said we had one last store to visit, and then we would head back home. The store they chose to go into was luxurious. There was a huge diamond chandelier that probably shone brighter than the sun. Everything in the store was practically dripping with gold and diamonds. I could only imagine how expensive everything in here must be. Damien, Lucas, and Xavier were immediately met by people I now know are salespeople. As the guys talked to the salespeople, I decided to wander around the store. It wasn't too big, so I should be fine. 2 of the so-called bodyguards followed me from a distance, but I didn't really mind their presence anymore. While I was looking at a gorgeous ruby heart necklace, it had a card next to it, but I had never really been taught how to read, so I didn't know what it said. I could make out a few words like ship and ocean, but that was pretty much it. "Ugh, who let a human in here?" a snotty voice asked from behind me. I whipped around to see who it was, only to be confronted by a dazzling blonde beauty. She was absolutely stunning. She had long, golden blonde hair. She was thin, but had curves in all the right places. She was tall, and the pair of heels she wore only added to it. "Werewolf, are you done staring at me, human filth?" The blonde wolf asked. She may be pretty on the outside, but with just the few words she said, you could tell her insides were ugly. I lowered my head and mumbled a quick sorry and tried to get away from her. Keyword, tried. She grabbed me by my upper arm and jerked me back to where I was standing in front of her. The force she used would have knocked me on my butt if it weren't for the fact that she still had her hand on my arm. "How dare you? Do you have any idea who I am?" she seethed. I whipped my head around, looking for some way to get out of this situation. The two guards from earlier seemed to have disappeared. Where the hell are they when you need them? I let out a whimper when I felt a pair of claws digging into my forearm, unfortunately bringing me back to the task at hand. The look on the she-wolf's face turned more and more wicked. She had the same look in her eyes as my old alpha. "Oh no, no, no. I am the future Luna Queen, you filthy human. I don't even know how you were able to get this far in here without being stopped, but it's gone on long enough," she yells, drawing the attention of some other people in the store. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Damien, Lucas, and Xavier whip around to see what all the yelling was about. My eyes met with Damien's. I was pleading for help, and I must have conveyed my desperation because in the next minute, Damien was shifting in midair and running over to where I was being held. The blonde woman, seeing Damien running toward her, jumped back and let go of me, causing me to fall. The blonde shifted into a sandy blonde wolf. She bared her teeth at Damien, but with one growl from him, the blonde was already submitting to him. And I am glad it didn't turn into a full-blown fight, considering I was still in the middle of the two of them. Lucas and Xavier were by my sides in an instant. Lucas was putting pressure on the wound on my arm. Apparently, her nails cut deep enough to make me bleed. And it is sad to say that this pain was practically nothing compared to what I am used to. Xavier barked orders out towards the guards. I couldn't focus on them, though. I was all too focused on the vast, midnight black wolf that was staring at me. He was as big as a bear and as tall as a damn horse. The sheer volume of him made me start trembling. He started walking towards me, and on instinct, I raised my good hand to try to shield myself from the wolf, but I was only met with a whimper and a wet nose against my hand. I held my hand out and closed my eyes, waiting for the worst. When a minute passed with nothing happening, I peeked open one of my eyes and was met with his gaze. Chapter 11. He started walking towards me. On instinct, I raised my good hand to try to shield myself from the wolf, but I was only met with a whimper and a wet nose against my hand. I held my hand out and closed my eyes, waiting for the worst. When a minute passed and nothing happened, I peeked open one of my eyes and was met with Damien, still in wolf form, lying on the floor as if he was trying to appear smaller not to scare me. I gazed around. I wasn't exactly sure what to do. Lucas was still putting pressure on the claw marks on my forearm, while Xavier was rubbing my back, trying to comfort me. I noticed the guards from earlier were dealing with that horrible blonde werewolf. Apparently, they are only here after they are needed. I hope they get yelled at later. It was odd but nice. I can't remember the last time I had someone, or three someones, care for me like this. The bodyguards I so desperately needed before were now restraining the violent blonde woman, who had shifted back to her human form. She still fought with all her might. Werewolves have no shame. You would think that humans raised in werewolf society would also not be ashamed of nudity, but our parents engrave it into our brains before we are sent off to become servants to our new masters. It is there even if we don't want it to be, and even if we want to fit in, we still can't. The bodyguards were also trying to hold back the group of people trying to record the commotion. At least that is what I assumed they were trying to do, but as I observed, it felt like I wasn't really there, just watching from a distance. Is this what an out-of-body experience is? A low whine brought me out of my daze, and I looked back at Damien. He was so close to me that if I reached my hand out, I would be able to touch him. He was barely moving his body. His tail, however, wouldn't stop moving. His wolf must be very happy to see me. Wait, that couldn't be right. I wasn't able to take my eyes off of Damien. Every fear-induced memory tried to come back full force, but I refused to be held captive by my memories. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. I kept chanting the mantra. Using every ounce of false bravado I had in my body, I slowly reached my arm out just over Damien's giant wolf head. He stilled, his eyes watching my hand. I was shaking from how absolutely terrified I was. Most wolves get offended at the thought of anyone below them touching them, especially in their wolf forms. But going out on a limb and believing Xavier, I slowly released my hand onto Damon's head. My reaction was a soft gasp. His fur was so smooth, like petting a dark cloud. Damien didn't disapprove of my touch either, because in the next second, he let out a growl purr. He was purring, and here I thought only cats could do that. Beside me, I felt Xavier and Lucas tense, then relax. Xavier leaned down so that I was the only one who could hear him. "I take it you aren't afraid of us anymore?" Xavier whispered, a hint of amusement in his voice. I didn't know how to reply to that, so instead, I gave a small nod, telling him I wasn't terrified of them. That didn't necessarily mean I was entirely comfortable with them, but it seemed like he needed a win, so I let him have this one. In all honesty, every other wolf scared the life out of me, but he doesn't need to know that. I slowly leaned closer to Damon's wolf form, my fingers digging further into his thick coat. Lucas, still holding onto my arm, gave me comfort, like he could yank me away if danger were to present itself. Which I suppose is what gave me enough courage to lean down and place a small, chaste kiss on the top of Damon's head. I blinked, and the next thing I knew, Damien had shifted back. I was suddenly very close to him, his eyes almost entirely black, swallowing up every ounce of the gorgeous blue and letting me know his wolf was close to taking control. For some strange reason, I realized that their wolves wouldn't hurt me. To keep myself upright, I placed my hands on Damon's shoulders. His bare skin made me try to scramble away slightly. "Oh no you don't," Damien said, his voice thick with amusement and affection. "I am going to kiss you now, mate," he said with finality. I began to sputter and blush. Then he pressed his lips to mine. When our lips met, it was as if the heavens expanded and welcomed us in. The sparks I had felt before were nothing compared to this. The kiss was slow and steady at first, but slowly Damien deepened it, my hands finding their way into his hair. I felt no pain, even in my injured arm. His hands roamed up and down my back, causing more tingles to spread. Is this what it is like for wolves with their mates? If so, I now understand why mates were so sacred. Damien slowly released me. I was breathing hard. He leaned his forehead onto mine. I jerked my head away, another furious blush spreading across my face as I realized his state of undress. While wolves may be comfortable with nudity, that didn't mean I was. Lucas had a look of approval on his face, while Xavier seemed to be pouting. I guess he wanted a kiss too. One of the bodyguards came over towards us slowly, almost hesitantly, and handed Damien a pair of sweatpants. He gracefully stood up with me still in his arms and placed me down, then swiftly put on the pair of sweatpants. Even then, in only a pair of sweatpants, he still looked like a king. I didn't get to stare at him for too long before I was scooped up into Lucas's arms. He placed a kiss on my forehead, similar to the one I had given Damien. I muttered a soft thank you to Lucas. He must have known my legs were getting tired. Not to mention the blood loss from my arm was still getting to me. Oh good, more scars. Don't thank me just yet, love. Thank me after we get your arm fixed up, Lucas replied, seemingly a little dejected that I got hurt. At the mention of my arm, it started to throb as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Once we got through the crowds at the mall and past the news crew waiting for us outside, we were seated in the car. Lucas began inspecting the wound on my arm, and every time I would wince, he would always say sorry, even if it wasn't his fault. These wolves are really just puppies in disguise. Chapter 12. As soon as we got back home, I was once again hoisted into Lucas's arms. As we walked away, I faintly heard Damien and Xavier yelling at the bodyguards. At any other time, I might have felt bad for them, but it was their job to protect us and they failed. They must have a gift for disappearing when they are actually needed. Lucas carried me into an unknown part of the castle. The walls were less ornate and more white, giving off a sterile vibe. We then entered a pair of double doors, and my sense of smell was assaulted by the scent of bleach and lemon, reminding me of the place I first woke up in. The walls were so clean, and the floor was immaculate. We walked through one more set of doors and entered a giant room that had about 14 beds, 7 on each side of the wall. Lucas walked up to the first one and set me down on it. Not a minute passed before another 2 wolves came in. The male wolf was in a white coat, which I now knew to be a doctor, while the she-wolf was wearing scrubs that oddly matched. The doctor came closer to me and, without warning, started to inspect my arm, turning it to get a better look. "Luna, I need to get a better view of the injury. Can you please remove this shirt?" the doctor asked hesitantly while glancing over at Lucas every so often. Lucas released a low growl, but relented and helped me take off the overshirt I was wearing. Once the wound was out in the open, Lucas growled again. I don't know why he was so mad. I was the one who was injured. "Forgive me, Luna, but these marks require stitches," the doctor said in a grave voice. About 20 minutes later, after a whole lot of growls and threats from Lucas and whimpers and winces from me, I was finally stitched and bandaged up. At this point, I was more bandaged than skin, but I think it was a good thing. They were trying to heal me, even though I was a human. As we were finishing up in the room, another wolf burst through the doors, startling me and causing me to jump into Lucas's arms. This, in turn, caused him to release a feral growl at the intruder. "Alpha, come quick." "Vampires have breached security," the new wolf rushed out, seemingly not deterred by his alpha's threat. Lucas held me even tighter and darted off in the direction we first came from. I put my head in the crook of his neck. Humans weren't meant to go as fast as werewolves. Once we got back to the main part of the house, Lucas abruptly stopped. My eyes were still closed, and while I was fighting the urge to throw up, I was gently taken out of Lucas's arms and into someone else's. Judging by the scent, I was now in Xavier's arms. I didn't realize I had managed to memorize their scents and figure out who was who. I wondered what I smelled like to them. I've got you, he whispered, trying to comfort me or me. When I lifted my head up, I realized we were in an unfamiliar room. We were surrounded by about 20 werewolves in their wolf forms, making me duck my head into Xavier's neck. Just because I wasn't scared of the triplets didn't mean I wasn't scared of other wolves. But just then, the wolves weren't what I was suddenly afraid of. A slow clap sounded around the room that had now gone deathly quiet. Clap, clap, clap. "What a nice welcoming party, and look, you even brought us a snack," someone said. The mention of a snack had the room filling with a chorus of growls. It also had Xavier tightening his grip on me, which let me know the snack was me. "Leave. Your kind is not welcomed here," Damon's booming voice said. Xavier took this moment to put me on the ground in case he needed his hands to defend us. I was beside him, so I had a good view of what was going on. There were 2 male vampires. They had a slight bit of power radiating off of them, letting me know they weren't high up, but they were above some vampires. I guessed that they were messengers for the higher-ups. Damien, Lucas, and Xavier should have no problem taking them down. "We just have a few things to discuss with you, and of course your new mate," one of the vampires hissed out. Xavier immediately jerked me behind him, shielding me from the vampire while also keeping me from view. I had never been this close to one before, but I knew they only saw humans as food sources and objects. Werewolves weren't much better in their treatment of us humans, but I would take the wolves over the vampires any day. "This is an unauthorized meeting. Leave immediately or you and your brother will be ripped to shreds." "This is my final warning, Leech," Lucas gritted out, using his alpha tone. "An empty threat, no less. Wouldn't want to accidentally start a war now, would you, Alpha?" The second vampire said, mocking the title. "Why are you really here, Spark and Zoran? Surely the elders have better things for you to do, or perhaps you have been demoted." Xavier said, earning a few wolfish chuckles. "TCH, we are just here to remind you the treaty expires in 1 month's time. The elders have agreed to throw a ball in our territory, and afterwards, we shall discuss a new treaty," the first vampire replied. A glint in his eye told me that wasn't all that would be happening at the ball. With a final glare in our direction, they were gone, and about half of the wolves in the room followed after them. Damon was quick to dismiss the rest, leaving me alone with an anxious-looking Lucas, a pissed-off Damon, and a concerned-looking Xavier. It is odd. They look so similar, yet each has its own personality. In situations like this, each has their own reaction. It is exciting to watch and observe. Well, I don't like them, I muttered, causing them to burst out laughing. Yeah, we don't like them much either, Damien said after he stopped laughing. Xavier scooped me into his arms, which I was secretly grateful for because I was on the verge of collapsing. Too much blood loss for the day, apparently. Come on, mate, you look like you're about to fall asleep, Xavier commented. I didn't respond because I was already close to passing out, and I think I did because I don't even remember going up to the room. But I could hear a few faint chuckles. Chapter 13. The bed was so warm and soft, like a cloud. Even after sleeping in this bed for a few weeks, I still couldn't get used to it. But there was something off this time. The 3 warm bodies lying near me were hotter than usual. In fact, the entire room was hot. Which was odd. The house was usually kept at a freezing temperature. When I first moved in, I thought it was just because werewolf temperatures ran higher than humans did. But I've recently realized it's just an excuse for them to cuddle with me to warm me up. But for some reason, tonight the room was extremely hot, or perhaps that was just my body. Feeling hot and surprisingly thirsty, I got up to go get a drink of water from downstairs in the kitchen. I slowly made my way out of the mass of bodies near me, doing my best not to wake the 3 wolves in my bed. Amazingly enough, I've gotten pretty good at it, and I am much more agile on my feet now. But I suppose that has to do with the fact that most of my injuries have healed. My face was no longer swollen and bruised. As I escaped and made my way to the door, something definitely felt off about the atmosphere in the house, not just in the bedroom. Brushing the feeling to the back of my mind, I made my way down the 2 flights of stairs and padded my way to the fridge. Once I finished my glass of water, I walked into the hallway, but I could feel I wasn't alone. I must have woken one of them up when I left the room earlier, I thought as I tried to see who I had woken up. As I turned to look at the person, I was pinned against the wall in a flash. Damien was staring me down with a look I had seen before, one of intense emotion. We were so close I couldn't tell whose air I was breathing. The position we were in gave him control, and I could tell he loved it. He had both his arms over my head against the wall, caging me in. Neither of us moved. Damien's eyes dilated right before he moved closer. Damien grabbed my neck, not hard enough to hurt me, but enough to send sparks through me. I gasped, and he took that opportunity to kiss me. Hard. I submitted, and I loved the kiss all the more. His hands started roaming up and down my back. He lifted me up into his arms effortlessly. I got so caught up in the kiss I barely noticed when Damien started moving. He slowly and carefully made his way up the same 2 flights of stairs I had just come down from. When we finally got back to our bedroom, not once breaking the kiss, I heard a sound coming from one of the guys. Damien lowered me onto the bed, still just as soft as when I left. When Damien's lips left mine, I whined. Brother, you can't tease her like that. Whatever the queen wants, the queen shall get, Lucas said, his voice thick with emotion. He appeared out of nowhere, lowering himself next to me. He started kissing my jaw, then moved down my neck. Stop holding yourself back, I heard Xavier say. Lucas faded away, then Xavier appeared in my line of sight, looking at me intensely. Xavier dragged me closer to the edge of the bed. The way Xavier was looking at me made my heart race. It is truly amazing what they can do to me with just a single look. Damien stepped back into my line of sight. Lucas and Xavier were on either side of me. Their combined efforts made me release a sigh. Just as the moment reached its peak, I jolted out of bed, my body covered in a thin layer of sweat. What was that? I asked aloud, still breathing heavily from the previous events. My dreams have never been that intense before, I muttered to myself. Chapter 14. Sparks POV. I dashed through the halls of the castle, trying my best to avoid the maids who were rushing around, cleaning or bringing the lords their food. I had been in the middle of going over new plans with my team when I was called for an impromptu appointment with the king at precisely 5 o'clock. Unfortunately, I didn't receive the message until 4:56, leaving me no time to prepare. The king is going to have my head for this, quite literally. I weaved out of their way, trying my best to get to the throne room as quickly as possible. My king would not be pleased if I arrived late. Not that I really had a choice at this point. I was late whether I wanted to be or not. With one final rush, I burst through the throne room doors, quickly righting myself so as not to embarrass myself in front of my lord. I bowed deeply, hopeful to minimize whatever punishment I would get for being late. Spark, where have you been? I asked for the report on the Fleabags ages ago. The Vampire King thundered, clearly displeased at my tardiness. Yes, the werewolves. Personally, not what I want to spend my time working on, but when you work for the king, most of your time is spent on them. Most commoners are upset about the arrangement with the dogs. However, all royalty and nobility are furious. And they're sparing no expense on figuring out how to get our power back. Instantly, I dropped to my knees, with my fist placed firmly over my heart, showing my utmost loyalty and respect. I am sorry, Your Highness. I humbly beg for your forgiveness and mercy, I pleaded. My heart sped up with every second of silence, while little beads of sweat appeared on my forehead. There is a reason I didn't want to be late. Our king is not a patient man, or really even a nice one. Granted, he mumbled after a moment. Now tell me, what information have you gathered on the mutts? He boomed, clearly getting more agitated and impatient for the answers. With all the courage I possessed, I slowly stood up, a devious smile on my face, which in turn made the king smirk. Well, it would seem that after all those years of looking for their precious mate, they have managed to actually find her, I started saying. So they now have a weakness to exploit, the king interrupted. I could already see the gears in his head turning, trying to figure out how to use this bit of information for his benefit. But that is not the best part, I said, recapturing the king's attention. What is the best part? He asked, obviously annoyed that I interrupted his thoughts. The best part is that she is human and absolutely terrified of them, I said, pride dripping into my tone. I knew that this piece of information would probably get me a promotion. It took me a while to watch their interactions to figure out their relationship, but it was clear as day that she is afraid of werewolves. Not just them. I wonder if she is afraid of vampires, too? A booming laugh echoed throughout the throne room, seemingly bouncing off the walls. It would appear that this particular piece of information had pleased the king. Well. Looks like we have a nice little bit of leverage up our sleeves now. And I think those mutts would do anything to save their precious little human mate. Even say, give up their crown, the king asked once his laughter subsided. Clearly, the prospect of finally defeating the wolves made him almost giddy. It is odd, I have never seen the king so pleased, even when he found his queen. Just goes to show you what his priorities are. Yes, Your Highness. Surely they would do anything for her, I agreed, because I had seen how they treated her. We mustn't be too hasty, my dear, a new voice said. The clicking of heels echoed throughout the throne room. I whipped around and came face to face with the vampire queen, bowing quickly to her, not wanting to risk offending her and facing her wrath. She acknowledged me before turning to her beloved. As I was saying, we mustn't be too quick to act on this. If what Spark said was true, that she currently fears them, she may not be so eager to go back to them. But if we wait for her to grow fond of those dogs and get marked by them, then I think we will have better results when we do take her, the queen said in her usual bored tone. The king appeared to be contemplating her idea. He nodded his head before ultimately agreeing with her. She gave a slight bow to the king before leaving the king and me alone. A shudder ran down my spine. I never like being near people of a higher status than myself. Not long after, he set his sights back on me, no doubt wanting me and my twin to go spy on them some more. Spark, gather your brother. I want you to keep a close eye on this potential new Luna Queen, and I want daily reports. Leave nothing out. With what we know now, she could be our ticket to taking down the wolves once and for all, the king said, a horrific smile plaguing his face. Oh, look, I was right. Yay, I get to go back into those Fleabags territory. A shudder racked my body before I bowed to the king, trying to get the hell out of the throne room as fast as I possibly could. Before I was able to leave, the doors to the throne room were busted open. 6 guards entered, 2 of them dragging what appeared to be a spy from the wolf side. How disgraceful to be caught by the enemy. I would never let myself be seen. Not that those dogs could ever see one of us. The guards dragged the spy directly in front of the king, who still had that horrific look on his face. The smell of fear coated the room. "Hello, werewolf scum," the king mockingly said. The guards all snickered. "Go to hell, you blood-sucking leech," the spy yelled, obviously having more guts than we first thought. "You know, most people would never kill a weak messenger like you, but I firmly believe in killing the messenger. Want to know why?" The king said, his voice getting darker with every word. He stood up off his throne, walked down towards the messenger, grabbed his face, and whispered, "Because it sends a message." He sank his fangs into the messenger's neck, effectively ending the poor soul's life. Without a second thought, I scurried out of the throne room like a bat out of hell to go search for my twin for our new mission. Chapter 15. Xavier's POV. How did I possibly become Rosalie's least favorite mate? I am the most charming and caring, and the other two are brutes. This is totally unfair, especially because I am the one who usually comforts her whenever the other two scare her. She is so delicate and small. I can't see how they have made more progress with her than I have. I have to be one of her favorites. I refuse to be in third place in a race between three people. Which is why I've been in my office for the past 2 hours thinking of ways to make progress with Rosalie, and in those 2 hours, I have come up with absolutely nothing. It is driving me absolutely insane. Arg. I scream out in frustration while banging my fists against my desk, leaving a rather large dent in my wake. I am a king. I should be able to handle taking care of my own mate. Now, what is she like? While lost in my own thoughts, I don't notice the two identical figures in the doorway watching my confusion and frustration. "See, I told you he was the one yelling," Damien smugly says, which snaps me out of my dazed state. I look up and glare at them both, especially Damien. He is the only one who has kissed Rosalie, and he refuses to hold back about what it felt like. Ugh, what do you two want? I grumble back at them. Well, that's just rude. We come in here to help you, and you treat us like this. Fine, then we won't involve you in our plan to get closer to Rosalie, Lucas mocks, hurt, just before they both turn on their heels. Wait, I shout. They both turn around with huge smirks on their faces, and I suddenly feel as if I just walked straight into one of their traps. Oh, good, you've changed your mind. Now, to cut to the chase, we were thinking of taking Rosalie on what the humans call a date, Damien says, finishing his sentence with a huge grin as if it is the most brilliant thing he has ever come up with. Huh? What is a date? I ask, completely baffled. As far as I know, a date is something on a calendar, which makes no sense for how we would take Rosalie on one. Well, apparently the humans do it while courting. It is how they get to know one another so they can get closer, Lucas explains when he sees that Damien isn't going to. I guess that is a good idea. She would get to know us better and feel more comfortable around us, and, in turn, we would learn more about her and how we can be better mates to her. Okay, I am in. What is the plan? I confidently say. We were thinking of the private mountain area where father took mother when they first got together. She obviously loves the outdoors and nature, so she will definitely love this. Plus, there won't be any distractions to keep her away from us or us from her. We can just focus on one another, Damien interrupts Lucas. I pretend to ponder for a moment, even though I know for sure my mind is entirely made up. Alright, I am in. Great. Rosalie's POV. I've got to get my mind under control. After that dream, I have been a little uneasy around the guys. I heard a rumor once that werewolves can smell a human's emotions, and I don't want to give them the idea that I want them in that way. Not that I am even ready to go far with them, though my body seems to disagree with that sentiment. A steady blush crosses my face as I think back to my dream, our bodies close together, and the feelings they evoked in me. No, I shout as I shake my head to get those thoughts out of my head. I gaze around the palace garden, where I am currently hiding away. Not that it would take long for the kings to find me. Thankfully, though, they seem to be holed up in their office going over official business. At least that is what Damien told me. Liar. I know he was lying because I've noticed that when he lies, he constantly glances over to the left, no matter what. Even when we are entirely alone, but that is fine. They can keep their secrets, and I will keep mine. While lost in my thoughts, I don't notice the 3 hulking figures coming near me until their figures block out the sun. Oh my, what happened to the sun? I ask before finally looking up. Hello, mate, Lucas says, a little too cheery for my liking. His smile simultaneously makes me blush with excitement and shudder with unease. Hello, I awkwardly reply. So, Rosalie, we have decided that you don't know us very well, and we want to change that. So, we decided to take you on a date. If you let us, Xavier says, his voice trailing off with uncertainty. Well, that is unexpected. Were they asking me out? To what? Get to know me better? That is unusual and very human of them, but what is the harm in it? Sure. I say, uncertain, my answer sounding more like a question, but that doesn't appear to stop them. Great, then let's go. Damien says cheerfully before grabbing my arm and guiding me. Damien leads me through the garden with Xavier and Lucas following directly behind us. Then, in one swift motion, I am sitting on top of Xavier in wolf form while Damien and Lucas stand beside us. Oh my. I always forget about werewolf speed until I witness it, or their shifting ability. I know we have made some progress in our relationship, if that is what you can call it, because I am no longer afraid of them, even when they are in their wolf forms. I gripped his fur with all my might. Before I knew it, we were speeding out of the garden, and soon enough, we were running through the forest, going uphill for some reason. We zoomed past trees and animals. I could feel the wind whipping through my hair. No wonder werewolves love this. This is exhilarating. Much too soon, the ride is over and we come to a stop. It is glorious. We stopped near a field of flowers on the side of a mountain. I hurriedly jumped off Xavier to get closer to the beautiful scene in front of me, nearly tripping in the process. I heard the sounds of bones shifting behind me, and I didn't dare turn around. Only when I heard the shuffling of clothes stop did I turn around to see 3 guys smiling broadly. Xavier's POV. We all step aside to show her the picnic we set up for her. There is a large basket of food and a big blanket. Everything is set up just right. You went through all of this for me? But why? She asks, her lips trembling while her eyes fill with tears. I wrap my arms around Rosalie, trying to give her all the support I possibly can. She turns in my arms, lays her head on my chest, and wraps her small arms around me, even though they barely cover my sides. I hear a slight sniffle followed by a whispered, "Thank you." My heart warms up. I feel as if I am going to burst. I can see what Damien was talking about. She makes my heart flutter, and I never want it to end. I twist to look down at her, and she looks back up at me. Something fills her eyes before her lips part, and I am pulled down for an earth-shattering kiss. This is heaven. Sparks erupted the second we touched. I now know why Damien wouldn't shut up about the kiss. This is amazing. I feel like the strongest and weakest person alive. Much too soon, the kiss is over. I gaze down at her, and a fresh blush covers her face from ear to ear. I knew my plan would work. I lean down and place a gentle kiss on her forehead. I get the slightest spark, but it is still amazing. Chapter 16. Rosalie's POV. My lips were still tingling from the kiss, and I absolutely loved it. Who would have thought I would have willingly kissed not one but 2 werewolves, and kings no less? And in such a short time. Is this the mate bond werewolves are always talking about? If so, I can now understand why werewolves are always so obsessed with finding their mates, because wow. Just wow. But I need to make sure that these are my feelings and not just the damned mate bond. And I still have to figure out what my dream was about. Even thinking about what we did makes my body hot and my face flush. I wish I had a close friend I could talk to about these types of things, because no way am I talking to them about this. And the other options would be the maids and servants I occasionally see running around. I had actually thought about it, but decided against it. All I know for sure is it definitely won't be the guys. They'd most definitely take it the wrong way, and I don't want to give them the idea that I'm ready to go further than I really am. Or was the dream trying to tell me that I actually am ready? Was it trying to give me that push? I shake my head, trying to clear it. There is no time to be thinking of those types of things. Clearly, they brought me here for something else. Still zoning out, I don't notice the hushed conversation going on near me. I glance over at the 3 guys who have dragged me from the only place I've ever known, turned my life completely upside down, and made it so much better. A faint smile paints my lips. I watch them as they seem to come to some conclusion just before they look straight at me. Oh, I guess they were talking about me. Why am I not surprised? Rosie, Lucas nervously says. I look him directly in the eyes, something I would have been too terrified to do weeks ago. I guess I've changed a little bit since I've gotten to know them. Rosie, we have a favor to ask of you. Well, actually, it's more of a request. And you should know we would never ask you to do this if we didn't think you were ready for something so big, okay? Lucas continues. When I don't respond verbally, just squinting my eyes at them, Damien takes over for Lucas. We want to introduce you as Luna Queen to our people. They should know that we've found our mate. We've waited so long for you, and we just want our citizens to stop worrying about whether or not we can produce an heir. Lucas jumps back in, interrupting Damien and then babbling about children. I raise my shaking hand to silence both of them. They want to introduce me to the public and then what? Start popping out kids. What? I croak out. They think I'm ready for so much more than I actually am. Even the former king disapproves of me. How in the goddess's name is everyone else supposed to welcome me when their former leader didn't even want to stay and get to know me? He just took one look at me and decided that I was nothing more than a lowly human. And what's to stop others from thinking the same thing that he did? I can't rule over beings that see me as less than them. That's insane. I suddenly felt a pair of arms wrap around me. Sure, it's okay. We didn't know you felt that way. It's okay. I know this may seem scary, but we'll be right there next to you no matter what, Xavier says as he hugs my petite frame. And in that second, I had come to a horrible realization. One, I had just said all those things out loud. I had just yelled at 3 kings, 3 werewolf kings. Or they had suddenly developed the ability to read minds. And yet, here they were comforting me? Why didn't you tell us you felt this way? I know we may not seem like good listeners, but we are, and we would do anything to make you feel more comfortable, Damien added. Yeah, and don't take our father's rejection so seriously. He's used to the old ways. No werewolf of a high rank has ever been paired with a human before, so it's just new, Lucas chimed in. A warmth spread through my heart at their words, and an overwhelming sense of determination came over me. Suddenly, I wanted to prove to the former Alpha King that I was a strong leader, and I wanted to prove to anyone who doubted me that I was a force to be reckoned with. Before I was able to lose my sense of confidence, I gingerly replied with yes, okay, I'll do it. Are you sure? We don't want to make you do something you really don't want to, Xavier asked while gently cupping my face and wiping the tears I hadn't realized had fallen during my outburst. Yes, I'm sure. I want to show anyone who sees me as a weak human that I am more than that. And I think it will help me become more me, I said with a faint smile. Well, okay then. We'll need to tell the gammas and deltas to start setting everything up for the big event, Damien said enthusiastically. And I now suddenly regret my decision. But I refuse to back down. If I do, they will continue to coddle me until I become so wrapped up in my bubble that I'll be too terrified to leave my bedroom alone. I can't go back to being that mousy little girl. I can do this. I'm a born leader, and I will prove it. Unknown to the 4 of them, not too far away, the goddess Selena was working her magic. Since that dream didn't really help her and also unfortunately confused her, hopefully this will help her grow more into the queen I know she was born to be, Selena said to no one in particular. Selena had her own reasons for mating Rosalie with the 3 Alpha Kings. She knew of the impending war between the werewolves and the vampires, and she knew that not only would the humans all die, but so would most of the werewolves, and she could not allow that to happen to her creations. So, to save them from themselves, she had to make one tremendous change. And that one significant change was Rosalie. She was going to be their salvation, whether she wanted to believe it or not. With one final glance at the mates, she ascended to the heavens. Chapter 17. Rosalie's POV. What the hell was I thinking? Oh yeah, I wasn't. I let a false sense of confidence lead me to agree to something I definitely shouldn't have. What was that feeling anyway? I have never felt like that in my life, but then all of a sudden I wanted to conquer the world. And that is in no way an exaggeration. I felt all-powerful, like I could rule the world. I am going to have to figure that out later, much later. I can only have a panic attack about one thing at a time. I am not very good at multitasking. Wait just a minute. Maybe they did something to me so they could get me to agree to this terrible idea of theirs. Oh goddess, I feel so violated. This is going to be a complete disaster. Introduce me to the public? What the hell were they thinking? Let alone me. They're the ones who suggested this idiotic idea in the first damn place, and clearly none of us have our heads screwed on straight. The former king doesn't even like me, and I can't even stand up to people, and I am going to be in a room full of nothing but alphas and lunas from other packs. And this will not end well. Oh, I can see it now. This is just going to be a huge catastrophe. Arg, I groan in frustration while I flop down on the bed. Maybe I can make a run for it? I ask out loud to no one in particular. No, wait, I am on the 3rd floor. A drop like that would no doubt land me in the hospital, and when that happens, I know 3 wolves that will never leave me alone again. Somehow, I have managed to gain their trust, and they trust me enough to leave me alone and let me have my own space. It really didn't take much. I could probably leave and never come back if I wanted to, but for some reason, I don't want to. I don't want to risk hurting them. Like right now, they're off in the castle they call a pack house. Geez, I wonder how many pack members live in there. No, wait, focus. All I am doing today is meeting with every single alpha and luna on the planet so that they can spread the word to their packs, so it can cause more interest and curiosity in meeting me before the ball, another thing I stupidly agreed to. It is so I can get up close and personal with the lower classes, as Lucas called them. I looked at him like he was crazy and didn't talk to him until he apologized for talking about them as if they were dirt beneath his shoes. Okay, I can only panic about one thing at a time. For now, it is meeting the alphas and lunas. Breathe in, breathe out. I continue this for about 10 minutes until I am sure I am calm again. Once I have calmed down, I slowly make my way off the ginormous bed and head over to the full-length mirror. I had already gotten dressed earlier. I was in a pair of leggings, and I stole one of Damon's hoodies. I peeled away the hoodie and revealed my cute red top. My hair was slightly messed up, but all in all, it didn't look bad. Well, this is as good as it's gonna get, I say to my reflection. I hastily make my way out of the bedroom and head for the entryway by the front door, where my mates are waiting for me. I don't slow down or greet them, wanting to get this over with as soon as possible. I head out the door and go straight for the car. They swiftly follow me, and it only takes about 15 minutes to drive up to this enormous building. A wave of nervousness washes over me, but I manage to push through and actually get out of the car. We enter this large building. I remember Damien said it was the Parliament building, where they make laws and decisions for both humans and shifters. Why don't humans have any representation in Parliament? I ask, my curiosity getting the better of me because I have never heard of a human giving their opinion to the Werewolf Council. Well, you see, I actually haven't given that much thought. It's always been like that, I guess. Damien nervously says as he stumbles over his words. So, what? You make up a bunch of rules for people who don't get to have a say in them? How is that possibly fair? I ask, growing angrier with every question I ask. Yeah, Damien replies, scratching the back of his neck, showing the fact that he is uncomfortable with this particular topic. I look him dead in the eye. No fear in me when I say, fix that. If you want me to be your equal, you must show your citizens that humans have the same rights as shifters. Huh, there it is again, that sense of fearlessness and unwavering confidence. Man, what is that and how can I get that activated all the time? The guys and I walked through the hallways of Parliament until we reached a set of massive doors. I could hear faint conversations from the other side. Okay, deep breath in, deep breath out. I can do this. It is only every alpha and luna on the planet behind those doors. Nope, can't do it. Come on, you'll do great, Xavier said encouragingly while holding one of my hands. Lucas grabbed the other one. Surprisingly, it actually made me feel better. Damien opens the door, and I am greeted with a gorgeous conference room. Oh, and my absolute worst fear, a ton of werewolves. Oh goddess, have mercy on my poor soul. Silence. Damon booms. The whole room goes dead quiet. Each alpha and Luna nods their heads in respect for their alpha kings. Lately, I've noticed that when we are around, each of them plays a different role. Like, Damon is the leader, Lucas oversees the troops and guards, and Xavier oversees the people, including us humans. We go and sit at the head of the table. A few Lunas congratulate me along the way. Most alphas, though, look at me with a mix of curiosity and disgust, similar to the way the former king looked at me when we first met. Why are we standing around here praising a human when we should be discussing more pressing matters? One alpha starts. Like what? Another Luna responds. Oh, I don't know. How about the fact that the vampires have been particularly quiet lately? I think they may be up to something, the first alpha accuses. A few other alphas toss out a quick, I agree, and he's right, before they all quiet down and look in the direction of my mates, looking at them for some guidance. Is it bad that I'm kind of grateful that the topic is no longer on me anymore? It's like a weight lifted off my shoulders, I whisper to Xavier. The attention wasn't even on you for more than a minute. Xavier deadpants. I absent-mindedly nod my head. We understand your concerns, but the vampires have nothing they can use against us. We are stronger now than they have ever been, Lucas says pridefully. Well, that's not exactly true now, is it? One alpha speaks up. Your Majesty, they do have one leverage against us now, a Luna says while glancing over at me. Lucas notices this first and lets out a ferocious growl while Xavier grabs my hand to try and comfort me, even though by now I am kind of used to it. Just what are you implying? Damon says while gritting his teeth. They're saying the vampires are going to use me as leverage. Keep up, would you? I speak up while shaking my head at Damon. I can almost feel the amusement and respect I got from that small statement, and it's building up, like it did when we were at the picnic a few days ago. You know, I think I am really starting to like this feeling. Chapter 18. Lucas's POV. Just what are you implying? Damon says while gritting his teeth. They're saying the vampires are going to use me as leverage. Keep up, would you? Rosalie says while shaking her head at Damon. That's not all. She may be leverage to the vampires, but she could also prove to be of use to us, an alpha spoke, and from the look in his eye, I could tell it wasn't anything good. Another growl left my lips without my consent. I knew that meant my wolf was taking over more and more. It wouldn't be long before my wolf fully took over and challenged one of these pompous alphas. Hearing my growl, one of the Lunas spoke up. We are not going to actually use her as bait, but the knowledge of her could help draw out some vampires. And if they try to come for her, we could destroy them once and for all. The Luna's mate finishes. Unsure of where to go with this line of reasoning, I quickly mind-link my brothers. What should we do? I ask. Kill the pompous bastards, Damon responds. I want to destroy the vampires as much as the next guy, but definitely not at the expense of our Rosalie, Xavier says. So what do we tell them? I ask. We will consider their ridiculous idea to keep them happy, Damon says. Which reminds me, we need to improve the security for the ball in a few days, Xavier adds. We snap back into reality. I am instantly greeted with Rosalie's curious face, adorable. And alphas and Lunas that seem both curious and angry. Damon clears his voice, gathering the attention of everyone in the room. We have decided to take what you have said into account, but we will be making no definite plans. Rosalie is our mate, and your soon-to-be Luna Queen. No harm shall befall her as long as we live. Meeting adjourned. Everyone get back to your respective packs, Damon says, ending his short rant with a huff. The alphas and Lunas quickly leave the room, leaving my brothers and me alone with Rosalie. Well, that was fun. Let's not do it again sometime, Rosalie says, trying to get rid of the awkward atmosphere. We chuckle at her comment, happy to see that our mate has become a lot more comfortable with us. Thank you, mate Bond. We all head back to the house. We need to finish the final preparations for the ball. All these suspicions about the vampires have got me on high alert, and I know I am not the only one. Rosalie's POV. The ball. How could I possibly forget about it? Is it too late to call it off? No, that would be stupid. Not to mention it would set a bad example not only for me but for my mates. Wow, I am not sure that will ever stop being weird on my lips. Plus, all those people have worked really hard on making everything perfect. All their effort would go to waste. People. I suddenly said out loud, startling the women around me. I am currently getting my dress for tonight tailored to my very petite body. At this point, I think the dress is honestly way too big for me. It practically swallows me whole, but the seamstresses keep saying I look like a queen. Oh, my apologies. I just remembered something, I excused. The dress is an absolutely stunning shade of emerald green. The seamstresses said the kings specifically picked out the color, probably to bring out my eyes. In all honesty, I feel like a villain. With my dark hair and emerald green dress, I feel like I should be putting a curse on a baby sometime soon. And if I feel like that, I wonder how the rest of the kingdom will see me? Arg, I really need to stop putting myself down so much. It is just so hard to stop when, for your entire life, you have been looked down upon. I am not some piece of trash they can throw away. I am an actual living person with feelings and emotions. Excuse me, miss, but are you all right? The head seamstress asks. I didn't realize I had been broadcasting my thoughts onto my face. Oh yes, I am fine, Ms. Meyer, but you can just call me Becky, she says. Miss, if you don't mind me speaking out of turn, but clearly you are not fine. I happen to be a very good listener if you want to tell me. I looked at the woman. She was around my age, maybe early 20s. Then something else hit me. She was human, in an actual ranking position. She must be extremely talented. Well, okay. I am terrified of going out there tonight. I was in a meeting with the ALPHAS and Lunas, and they basically said they wanted to use me as bait. And before that, I had met with the former Alpha King, and he essentially called us humans the scum of the earth. I am so unsure of how to lead an empire, and I have had little time to adjust, and it is just too much. I shout, a sigh of relief following shortly after. The room went dead silent before Becky opened her mouth. Well, forget them. Who cares? You are the Luna Queen. They don't like you because they know you will make change. You are going to help improve the lives of the humans and, in turn, make the wolves' lives even more difficult, she deadpanned. Man, where can I get the confidence of this chick? But actually, that helped put a lot of things in perspective. Because they would never give this much trouble to a werewolf, just a human. They can't stand that someone they consider to be below them will actually rule over all of them. Thank you, Becky, that really helps, I say sincerely. Well, I am amazing. I am so awesome that while we have been talking, I finished your dress, she replied pridefully. If you ever need my advice, just call me to make you a dress. Of course, I'll have to add on the fee for advice, she jokes. The joke helps brighten my mood. After another hour with people rushing around making sure my hair and makeup were perfect, I am finally free-ish. I make my way to the door, and I am immediately met with 3 very handsome wolves in their best suits, and it suits them very well. Pun intended. Whoa, Xavier says. You truly look like a queen, Rosalie. No, you look like a goddess, Lucas corrects. Well, I think you look so out of this world, I am not even going to try to come up with words for it, Damien replies. With each of their comments, the blush on my face only seems to grow stronger. Thanks, I mumble back. But I think it is missing something. Oh yeah, this, Xavier says before pulling out a black box and opening it up to reveal a satin lining. In the middle was a gorgeous crown that matched my dress perfectly. Well, the kingdom is waiting for us, my queen. Let's not keep them waiting, Lucas says before gently grabbing my hand and guiding me towards the stairs. I slowly take my time walking down the grand staircase. Lucas on my left, Xavier on my right, and Damien one step ahead of us, right in the center. They are probably worried I might fall, so they arranged it this way in case I do. One of them can always catch me just in time. Or maybe this is how the Luna Queen and Alpha King always enter a room. Though I doubt it is the second one. I thought the private house was beautiful, but now that I have finally seen the pack house, I realize it practically pales in comparison. The private house has more modern touches, but the pack house feels like it hasn't been touched since before the wolves had taken over. And for some reason, I love it so much more. After a few more stairs, we finally reach the bottom, and my legs feel like they are ready to give up now. We still have a night of dancing and greeting guests to get through. Arg, I groan aloud. What is wrong? Xavier leans to whisper. My legs are already tired, I whisper back. Xavier appears to think about my words for a moment before bursting into a fit of laughter. Mustering up my best glare, I ask, what? What is so funny? Once Xavier hears the seriousness in my tone, he sobers up reasonably quickly. I am sorry, doll. I just find it kind of funny how delicate you truly are, he says with a hint of amusement in his tone. I am not delicate. I shout with a stomp of my foot. She is definitely not delicate, Damien says from in front of us, and by the tone of his voice, I could tell it was taking everything in him not to burst into a fit of laughter as well. Would you three cut it out? We have a room full of people waiting for us, Lucas reprimands. With that, the guys put on their public faces and marched into the ballroom. Being in the middle of their group, I am forced to go along with them. We stop at a set of huge, ornate doors, 2 armed guards standing on either side. With a silent nod to the guards, they open the ornate door. One of them steps into the room and at the top of his lungs, announces us. We step into a scene out of a painting. People dancing and milling around a beautiful room, accented by gold-dripping chandeliers. The ceilings have been painted too, no doubt before the wolves had taken over. With Becky's words still fresh in my mind, I walk with my head held high, knowing now that I possess power most people in this room would kill for. The night goes by in a blur, lots of flattering conversations, thankfully not on our side, though. But the entire night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I didn't realize where it was coming from until I glanced over at a group of girls and was met with nothing but murder in their eyes. And for some reason, I felt proud that I could evoke that emotion. When we finally leave the ball, I am more sure of my next course of action. I want to be marked. Tonight. Chapter 19. Rosalie's POV. I want to be marked. Tonight. With that decision, I follow the guys up the massive staircase once again, heading towards our bedroom. I don't know what brought on this change so suddenly. Maybe it is the mate bond one heard so much about. Maybe it is finally working. Who knows? But I do know that tonight something finally fell into place, and I am ready to take this next step with them. I finally feel like I belong somewhere, and I know it is with these 3 wolves. I mean, at first, they scared the life out of me, but I've come to realize they would never harm me, and all they want is for us to be happy. I know I want to mate with them, but I am still unsure how to approach this type of subject. I still haven't told them about the dream I had of us. Maybe that is what I could use to show them I am interested in us becoming more. Once we get inside, I swiftly take off my crown and any jewelry that I was wearing. Taking it all off made me feel 10 pounds lighter. After that, I lay down on the bed with my legs hanging off the side while I was face up, staring at the canopy of the bed. A few faint chuckles were heard from around me. Good to know I had their attention. I heard movement around me and the rustle of clothes, letting me know they were getting out of their tuxes. Taking this opportunity, I tell them my dream. So I have been wanting to tell the 3 of you about this for a little bit now. I had a dream about you guys, I hesitantly said. The shuffling around the room died down. It would appear that I had gained their interest. Good, I definitely wanted them to be fully engaged for what I had planned. When I said no more, Xavier spoke up. What was it about? Well, to start it off, I woke up in the bedroom, but it was really hot, and for some reason I was extremely thirsty, my voice said, becoming raspier with each word. I felt the bed dip down around me. I opened my eyes and had a peek around and was met with 3 very hungry-looking werewolves, who also happened to now be shirtless. So I got up to get some water from the kitchen, and on my way back to the room, Damien stopped me and pushed me up against the wall. I stopped, my tone implying what I didn't say. What are you trying to say? Lucas asked, as a look I could only describe as pure desire crossed his face. Mustering whatever courage and dignity I still had left, I stood up from the bed and looked back at them. I want to be marked and fully mated. They all said nothing for a moment, seemingly too stunned to speak. Their quietness hurt me until I heard Damien whisper, "Thank Goddess." They all looked at each other for a moment before looking back at me with intense gazes. Oh. Strip. My face immediately turned a beautiful scarlet red at the command. I slowly removed my dress, and by the growls, either they loved it or I wasn't doing it fast enough for them. Probably the latter. Once I was finished, a wave of shyness overtook me, and I attempted to cover myself up as I looked away from them. "Don't shy from us, mate. We love you inside and out," Xavier said. I felt small sparks erupt in a trail down my back, then two separate trails, and I realized that Lucas and Damien were kissing the scars that littered my back. The trails started moving back up towards my shoulder, and once they got to specific places on my neck, I felt pure bliss. Lucas took over and led me back over to the bed. He walked towards me like a predator that had found the perfect prey. In one swift motion, Lucas guided me onto the bed. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xavier approach. A few seconds passed before I felt a touch that made me let out a small moan of approval. Lucas and Damien came into my line of sight, letting me know Xavier was the source of my pleasure. Damien kissed me like never before, and I moaned into his mouth. I felt something building in the pit of my stomach. It got hotter and harder to ignore. Damien moved down to my neck, making me moan when he kissed a particular place. The building sensation got stronger and stronger before I released a breath of pleasure. "Not so fast, we are just getting started," Lucas said. Damien moved to the end of the bed and dragged me down. The look in his eyes got me all hot again. "Oh goddess, I can smell your need and want for me," Damien groaned out. Damien swiftly removed his remaining clothes. He leaned over and kissed me with all he had. "Are you sure you want this?" he asked. "Yes," I said, no hesitation in my voice. I locked eyes with Damien, and that was all he needed before he finally joined with me. The first thing I felt was a slight pinch, but the next was pure bliss, a feeling of being whole. Slowly, he began to move, creating the most delectable rhythm. I moaned out my pleasure. Damien let out a snarl before he picked up the pace, and I began to feel something building up again. I didn't want to finish so soon, so I kept trying to hold back. "Quit holding back. I want to hear you scream," Damien growled out. Damien moved harder than before, and with a few more strokes, I was crying out my release. Damien lifted my body up, wrapped one arm around me, and held the other side of my neck. He started to kiss up and down my neck. When he kissed a particular spot, I moaned louder than ever, and within a quick second, he bit into my neck. I screamed at the pain, then groaned at the euphoria-like feeling. Marked and mated. 1 down, 2 to go. I had a few moments to catch my breath before Lucas pounced on me. "Now it is my turn, princess," Lucas growled. Lucas arranged me just how he wanted. "This should be interesting," I heard Xavier mumble. I was confused for a moment, just a moment before Lucas took control. I gasped out in both shock and pleasure. I was surprised at how much I loved the intensity. The force Lucas was using would have me over the edge in minutes. I was slowly starting to build up to my climax. Lucas switched our position. I began to cry out my release, and Lucas groaned out his. I was so wrapped up in my climax that I didn't realize Lucas had already found his sweet spot. Then he bit down, and I screamed at the pain, but the euphoric feeling came over me, and soon that was all I could feel. It wasn't over yet, though. I could feel another set of eyes on me. I looked over at Xavier, and he growled his approval of my attention to him. Xavier pulled me onto his lap. He started to move his hips, making me moan in pleasure. I began to take the lead, finding a rhythm. I lifted myself and lowered myself onto him. A groan left his lips. I slowly began rocking myself back and forth, earning myself a surprised groan from Xavier. Soon enough, though, he took over, moving deeper and more complex than I thought possible. My climax started building and building. Xavier somehow managed to move with me all the while leaving a trail of kisses down my neck. Xavier groaned out his release, and as soon as he did, he bit me. I screamed out at the combination of both pain and pleasure. I lay down on the bed, barely acknowledging the people around me, and soon I fell into the best sleep of my entire life. Chapter 20. A few weeks after the mating ceremony, I find myself often thinking back on how it all began. But I can't dwell for long. The guys have been keeping me very occupied, especially at night. I can't seem to get enough of them. But something has been troubling me, and I think the guys are starting to notice. What is wrong? Xavier asked, coming out of the bathroom. Well, I thought I was alone for starters. Nope, I was just in the bathroom, he said, a glimmer in his eye. How did you? I asked, confused, but my confusion only made the glimmer in his eyes grow brighter. I didn't say that out loud, did I? I was sure the words never left my lips. No, they didn't, he said with one of the biggest grins I have ever seen on him. I thought for a moment, watching the expressions on Xavier's face change with each new thought. Then it finally hit me. It took longer than I would have liked, probably because I just woke up. You can read my mind. How? I asked carefully. Mate bond, cupcake, he replied. That makes no sense. Just because we are bonded doesn't mean you get to read my mind at will. And if that was true, why can't I read yours? I asked in my head, wanting to test this theory before I fully got offended. You can read ours, but it just takes some practice for you because you're human, he explained. But that is such an invasion of privacy. Is there a way I can block you out? I asked, getting angry and slightly desperate. Xavier narrowed his eyes at me. Why? Is there something you are trying to hide from me, mate? No, I deadpanned. Then why do you want to shield your thoughts? He questioned, almost like he was accusing me of something. Because that is an invasion of my privacy. Not everything I think I want you to know. This made Xavier think for a minute. He seemed to be going back and forth between something before he settled on it. Okay, I will show you how to shield your thoughts. You have to visualize putting a wall up inside your mind, he said. I closed my eyes and visualized putting up a big brick wall. It was weird. I could almost feel alone in my thoughts again. I let out a sigh of relief. My thoughts are my own once again. I look back over at Xavier before I look away and proceed to attempt to get off the bed. Keyword, attempt. Every move I made sent a wave of stiffness through my body. If this is the after effect of mating, I am debating whether it is really worth it. I tried not to grimace, knowing that in a second, Xavier would be all over me. But when I threw both of my legs off the side of the bed, I couldn't hide the wince. Just like I thought, Xavier was beside me in a second. What is wrong? He asked. Nothing at all. Not a thing, I said, trying to muster up my best fake smile. Has anyone ever told you you are a terrible liar, Cupcake? He asked, humor clearly evident in his voice. All right. I am a little sore, I quietly said. I watched as Xavier's face went from one of concern to one of confusion and finally understanding. Oh, I am sorry, Cupcake. It must have slipped my mind that you may be sore from last night's activities and every other night, Xavier said shyly, right before he got a mischievous look in his eyes. Oh. In one swift motion, Xavier had scooped me up into his arms. Thankfully, I had been clothed sometime last night, so I wasn't exposed. Xavier then headed out the door and towards the kitchen. When the smell of bacon wafted towards my nose, I knew I was right. We walked into the kitchen, where I was greeted by two huge men making breakfast. Good morning, Sleeping Beauty, called Lucas. You are just in time for breakfast. Why is Xavier carrying you? Damien asked, amusement evident in his eyes. I am a little sore, I mumbled into Xavier's neck. A thick blush covered my face. Why do we have to keep discussing this? Xavier puts me down on one of the stools in the kitchen. A moment of silence passes before the three of them burst into a fit of laughter. The blush soon leaves my face and is replaced by anger. What the hell are they laughing about? What is so damn funny about this? I lift my head from Xavier's neck and glare at the three of them. At the sign of my glare, the three of them instantly stop. Good. What is so funny? I ask. The three of them share a look before Damien quickly defends. Nothing is funny. We just never thought of it from your perspective, that's all. Look, I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night, I reply, adding my hands on my hips for extra emphasis. They share a look again before Damien and Lucas use their speed to grab plates of food and bring them to where I was sitting. An offering to you, our radiant goddess, Lucas says while bowing down to me. My goddess, they are weird. Cute but odd. Okay. I will let it slide for now, I say while narrowing my eyes at them. When they come to sit down, I finally look around at all the food. There was a lot more than usual. I mean, they can eat, but not this much, right? Guys, what is with all the food? I ask while eyeing it all. Well, now that we have mated, there's a really good probability that you are pregnant, and since you are human, you will need to consume a lot more food to keep both you and the pup healthy, Damien casually replies. Pregnant? There is no way in hell I am pregnant. My mind couldn't process it, and neither could my body apparently. I got up, and the room began to sway and spin, then everything went dark. Unknown to them, someone had been eavesdropping on their conversation. The spy slipped away unseen. Then, as quickly as he could, he raced to the border to get back to his proper territory. Once he was across, he raced up to the vampire's castle. He headed straight into the throne room to deliver the fantastic news he had overheard. Mated and possibly pregnant, my sire, the man said. On his throne, the vampire king did something he hadn't done in years. He cracked a smile. One that horrified the others in the throne room. How wonderful. Everything is going just swimmingly. I can't wait for the day when we will finally take back what was taken from us by those dogs, the king said with a dark tone. Chapter 21. Rosalie's POV. Well, now that we've mated, there's a really good probability that you're pregnant, and since you're human, you'll need to consume a lot more food to keep both you and the pup healthy, Damien casually replies. No, I scream, jolting up out of bed. I am panting as I look around to find I am back in our bedroom. I jerk my head towards the door as it bursts open and someone's rush in. My three mates look as if they are ready to rip the head off someone. Where is the danger? Xavier shouts, while Lucas and Damien look around the room for any possible threat. There is no threat. I just had a bad dream, I explain. Oh, replies Lucas. An awkward silence fills the room. So, are we going to talk about the thing? Damien says, breaking the silence. Must we? I ask. I am afraid we must, Xavier answers. So, what is the matter? You don't want pups in general? Damien asks. Or with us? Lucas finishes. It is not that. It is just that I just don't feel like I'd make a good mother, you know. I reply. Another awkward silence fills the room. Well, before you start panicking, do you want to check? Damien hesitantly asks. You can do that? I ask, surprised. Yeah, I'll call the royal physician to come take a look at you, Lucas says. Okay, well until then I am going to take a quick nap, I reply before getting comfy in the bed again. I close my eyes and hear the guys shuffle out of the room before falling into a deep sleep. Damien's POV. We exit the bedroom, leaving Rosalie alone so she can sleep some more. My brothers and I head out to the pack house for a meeting with our advisors. That is where we were originally headed, but when we heard Rosalie scream, all other things flew out the window other than must protect mate. We all get into the car. Xavier's eyes glaze over, letting us know he was probably contacting the pack doctor to see if Rosalie is pregnant. After a short drive, we end up at the pack house. Our members bow to us as we walk past. Our wolves are pleased at this show of submission and proudly gloat in the fact that they are kings among alphas. We head straight for the meeting room, where our betas and gammas are waiting along with our advisors. Lucas was the one who called the meeting. He had recently received intel that the vampires were planning something big. Since Lucas called the meeting, he sits at the head of the table, with me to his right and Xavier to his left. All right, everybody, I am just going to skip to the chase. The blood-sucking leeches have been unusually quiet. Lucas starts. We have a spy that tells us they plan to use our mate as leverage to gain more power and more authority for themselves. Xavier finishes. So from now on we want at least 10 trained guards to have eyes on her at all times, I say to my gammas, knowing that they are in charge of our defense and security. And I want a team investigating what the possible plan the leeches actually have and what ways we can crush their plan. Lucas grunts toward our betas. Now any questions before we end this meeting? Xavier asks. Only one man raises his hand. Elder Hilton. One of the massive pains in the ass we have to deal with. And he's only gotten worse since we rejected his daughter as our potential choice mate if we hadn't found Rosalie. I have a concern. Your mate has fully bonded with you, unfortunately. He mumbles the last part, but my brothers and I still hear it anyway. A low growl rumbles from our chests at the disrespect this man is showing for our mate. He takes a moment before continuing. Are there any possibilities of her being pregnant? He asks scornfully. We actually called for a meeting to see if she is indeed pregnant. Elder Hilton, I reply, my alpha tone dripping into my voice. That's good then. Wouldn't want her only useful quality to go to waste, he says sarcastically. It would appear someone is still angry that we didn't choose his daughter as a choice mate. I mind-link to my brothers. If that is all, then this meeting is finished, Lucas grits out. Rosalie's POV. I woke up from my nap not long after the guys left and headed downstairs to make myself some food before I had to meet with the pack doctor. I grabbed something called ice cream from the freezer. I tried it a couple of days ago and I absolutely love it. The only downside is that you can't eat it too fast, otherwise it hurts your head. Brain freeze is what Xavier called it. After I finished my ice cream, I ran upstairs and changed into a pair of black stretchy pants and an oversized sweater and went back downstairs to wait for the guys. Man, all this running up and downstairs has gotten me all out of breath. I hear the door open and watch the guys enter the room, looking very unhappy and grumbling to themselves. What is wrong with you guys? I carefully ask. People, Lucas mumbles. Okay then. Are you ready for the doctor? Damien asks me. As ready as I'll ever be, I reply. Good, 'cause she's here, he says quickly before opening the front door to reveal an older werewolf. She seems nice and cheerful based on the giant grin on her face. Hello, Alphas and Luna. My name is Dr. Marina Johnson, she brightly says. Hello, nice to meet you, I reply. I am told I am here to check for a possible pup, correct? She asks, her grin only getting bigger. Yes, Damien answers. Great. She says before the doctor hands me a small plastic cup and says, almost the weirdest thing someone has ever said to me, go pee in this cup. Excuse me? I ask, embarrassed, and vaguely look down at the cup. I look around the room at my mates. I can see they are just as embarrassed and awkward about this whole situation as I am. Good. We can test your urine to see if you are pregnant, the doctor further explains. Oh, well okay then, I quickly say before taking the cup and leaving the room to head for the bathroom. Once I've done my business, I go back into the room and give the doctor the cup. Alright, a quick little test will determine if you are pregnant or not. I'll put this strip into your urine, and if it comes out clear you are not pregnant. If it comes out pink, you are, she explains. Right before she sticks the strip into the cup. And it was bright pink. No way in hell, I say, gobsmacked. Chapter 22. Rosalie's POV. I'm pregnant. What in the world? Was the only thing I managed to get out. However, that was better than just standing there with my mouth wide open like the three other people in the room. After a minute, we were all able to pull ourselves slightly together, at least on the outside. I am sorry, doctor, are you positive? I ask. Yes, Luna, I am positive. Now I'll leave you all alone to celebrate the joyous news, she says cheerfully before practically skipping out of the room. At least somebody is happy about the news. A deathly silence falls over the room as the four of us think about what just happened. I am still trying to process whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I don't even know if I want kids, or hell, if they do. I mean, it's not like we can't afford to take care of it. It would be raised in a good home. Unfortunately, it'll be raised by a single mother after I kill the three of them. I really hope they didn't hear that. I glance up at the three guys who got us into this mess, and all three of them have big grins plastered all over their faces. Oh, they cannot be serious. What are you three so happy about? I ask, my voice coming out a lot shakier than I wanted it to. We are going to be fathers. Xavier shouts. Lucas rushes towards me, picks me up, and twirls me around, clearly excited about the news. My head is still very fuzzy from the news, and with the added spin, now my stomach is doing loops. I think I am going to be sick, I manage to grumble out. But I don't understand. I mean we've barely. I stutter out. Lucas gently puts me down, but I barely notice as I am still swimming in my thoughts. I start to get completely lost in my thoughts, not only thinking about how this happened, but why and what we are going to do next. Soon enough, I am spiraling into a panic attack. Doll, Xavier says sweetly as he grabs my hands, the contact somehow making me calm down. I look into his eyes, and the pure love and adoration I see there let some part of me know this is going to be okay. How? I ask, just barely above a whisper. He stares into my eyes, searching for something. A look of understanding passes before he starts. Well, doll, werewolves are very, fertile? He glances over to Lucas and Damien, making sure he's using the right word. Which is why we have upwards of 4 or 5 pups. Well that, and we're really eager, Damien says, which is met with a slap to the back of the head from Lucas. The action makes me chuckle. That makes sense, but I am not a werewolf, so I am still not following. I mean, I didn't even think I could have children. My old pack didn't exactly keep me clean or well-fed or, hell, even healthy in the slightest bit, I say, trailing off as I see the looks on their faces become darker. There is that murderous intent I fell in love with. Love, we are the kings. It is imperative that we have an heir, so we are a little more, active and a lot more fertile than others, Damien says, trying to explain further. It takes me a minute to process it, but once it finally clicks, oh. I get it now, but if you don't mind, I'd like to be alone for a little while so I can process this. Please, I say, my voice becoming increasingly quieter. They share a glance. Okay, I'll meet you in the garden in a few hours, Cupcake, Lucas says. I solemnly nod my head so he knows I heard him. Okay, doll, if that is what you need, we are going to head back to the pack house. Call us when you need us, Xavier replies. He then leans down and leaves a gentle kiss on my temple. I watch the 3 of them leave the house. When I'm sure they're gone, I head straight for the garden. I found it a few days ago and have been obsessed with it ever since. I go out into the garden to clear my head and collect my thoughts. I just don't understand how this happens so fast. I lose track of time. The sun has slowly started to set, and before long, I see Lucas heading in my direction. What catches me off guard is how tired and stressed he looks, even though just a few hours ago he seemed so happy and excited. Hey, you okay, Cupcake? He asks. I am getting a better grip on the situation, but you look like absolute shit, I respond. Just what every man wants to hear from the woman he loves, that she thinks he looks like shit, he deadpants. We share a moment of silence before I burst out laughing. I started laughing so hard I was doubled over, and before I could acknowledge what was happening, I was thrown over Lucas's shoulders, and he was trudging back to the house. I tried to wiggle my way out of his grasp, almost kicking him in the face in the process. Smack. Did you just slap my ass? I shout. More importantly, why did I like it? Yes, I did, and I will do it again. So quit moving, he said, and I can almost hear the amusement in his voice even if I can't see his face. He walks for a little while, then, without warning, entirely drops me on one of the couches in the living room. I am ready to let him have it when I notice Damien and Xavier look just as bad as Lucas does. Jeez, who peed in their cereal? Are you guys okay? Is this because of the earlier news? I ask. No, we've just been dealing with a problem, Xavier vaguely says. Care to elaborate on that? Oh, the vampires are up to something, but the issue is we aren't sure what it is, he says. Yeah, and it is just exhausting trying to solve this. Damien jumps in. Should I be worried? I ask. Of course not. Besides, you are much too delicate to worry about these types of things, Damien replies. Oh no, he didn't. I am not delicate. I shout back, and in a swift motion, I make my way back out to the garden. The night has fully set in, but the garden is lit up. It is absolutely stunning. I loved it in the daytime, but at night it absolutely takes my breath away. I make my way over to the chair I've been in for the past few hours and go sit down, trying to think of something to take my mind off of what Damien just said. I know I am no wolf, but I am not weak. Hello there, dear, a voice calls. I jerk my head upwards and start rapidly moving my head left and right, trying to find where the voice is coming from. You won't find me, child. Who are you? I ask, willing my voice to be strong. No one important. Then why are you hiding? I ask, all bravado. You're a lot feistier than we believed. Who is we? My heart rate quickened, and my gut told me to run as fast as possible to the house. Can't tell you. What can you tell me then? I ask, standing from the chair, slowly moving toward the house. That I am just the distraction. Wah! Was all I managed to get out before I felt a small stabbing in my neck, then everything went dark. I awaken, I am assuming a few hours later. I peer around the room, no, the cell I am in. Why am I in a cell? Hello, Luna, a creepy voice calls. I peer around the dark cell. I attempt to stand up, but soon realize my arms and one of my legs are chained to the wall behind me. Who are you? What do you want from me? I call out, trying not to show how terrified I really was. Why can't I ever have a typical day? Oh, Luna, we want nothing from you. You are merely an object, a tool if you will. You will help us get the power that was taken from us by your pathetic mates, the voice explains. I don't understand. Well, you see, Luna, the man says while coming into the dim lighting of what could only be described as a dark dungeon. Werewolves will do anything for their mates, even give up their entire kingdom, the man says. I finally get a good look at him. He is as pale as a dead man with dark hair and blood-red eyes. When understanding finally hits me, I scream and hurry back to the wall I am chained to. Vampire! I shout at him. Stay away from me, you blood-sucking creep. He says nothing but chuckles at me before cracking a fanged smile and leaving me alone in my dark, cold, and dirty cell. Well, this could be a problem. Guys, where are you? Chapter 23. Lucas's POV. She's gone. Damien yells as he runs back inside the house toward us. What do you mean she's gone? Xavier shouts, immediately becoming panicked at the thought of Rosalie missing, and I am not far behind him. I went out into the garden, but when I got out there she wasn't. And there was another scent mixed in with hers, so I know damn well she didn't leave willingly. Damien explained, just on the verge of shouting. Both Xavier and Damien started pacing back and forth. They looked as if the earth was closing in all around them, like the end of the world was upon us. And that is exactly what it felt like without Rosalie. Our world was doomed. It was crushed. Looks like neither of them will be calm in this situation or keep their heads straight, so I guess I'll have to be the voice of reason. Damn, you know it's bad when I'm the voice of reason. I take a minute to gather my thoughts, because I've already started spiraling as well, but one of us has to stay in control and remain at least somewhat calm on the surface. Brothers, I say, raising my voice. At the sound of my voice, they both stop pacing, but when I see them, they have the most frightened looks on their faces. They've gone from end of the world to oh no in a matter of minutes, and that sadness is going to turn into anger, and soon enough, we'll be destroying armies to get to her. If they were in wolf form, they definitely would have had their tails shoved between their legs. I've only ever seen them do that once, and my tail is talking to my legs as well. That was the day Rosalie scolded us for something we had done. I always feel bad when I screw up, but when it's coming from her, the disappointment feels so much heavier. I don't think Damien, Xavier, or I have ever actually scolded Rosalie. Don't think we have the capability within our souls, actually, to get angry with her. Let's try to remain calm, I try saying. Calm? You want us to remain calm? Damien yells. Our mate is gone, and I know damn well she didn't leave on her own accord. But if you want us to remain calm, then let's remain calm. Well, he's a lost cause. It seems I was too late, and that sadness and despair have already turned into anger and rage. And the last time I saw Damien this mad, he was killing Rosalie's former alpha. Okay, that's fair. Look, all I'm saying is we can't panic. If we panic, we're no use to Rosalie, I hissed. We both silently glare at each other for a moment before Xavier butts in. He's right, Xavier adds, glancing over at us. His head was tucked in a downward position, staring at his shoes like they were the most interesting thing in the world. I know how you feel. We all do. She's our mate too. So quit throwing a tantrum and act like the king you are, or so help me. I seethed and threatened. Damien looked as if he wanted to argue, but with another harsh glare from both Xavier and me, he thought better of it. Okay, now we need to alert the elders, and we need to start getting plans together to get her back. I ordered. We all nod in agreement, and in the next moment, we are dashing off to the pack house. On the way there, Xavier roused the troops and ordered them to be ready for a search and rescue mission. There was no chance of not getting Rosalie back. We were going to destroy the planet if we had to, but she was ours, and she would be ours again. Damien was tasked with mind-linking the elders to wake and be ready for a meeting in approximately 5 minutes. Given how long it was going to take us to get to the pack house at our current speed, usually it would take about 10 minutes, but we were kinda in a hurry here. We sailed into the conference room and got right down to business. There was no time to waste, and I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that. Rosalie is gone, I deadpan. There were mixed reactions. Some were furious that their queen was gone. Others, well, one specifically, was happy that she was gone. I would deal with this man one day, but unfortunately, that day was not today. After all, it takes way too long to appoint a new elder to our council, and we did not have any time to waste. With a few growls here and there, and a threat that someone would be stripped of their titles and tossed out on their ass, we kept order in the room. Now we're going to search our borders in their entirety, just in case she may still be on our side. While that happens, we'll prepare our spies and our army for battle into the vampires' side of the border. I grumble the last part. We kept going through more and more plans as more and more searches turned up nothing. We searched our side, then finally infiltrated theirs. Those vampires were definitely behind this. This caused not only Damien to lose hope, but also Xavier, and I'm barely hanging on as is. We would never truly give up looking for Rosalie. We had to fight our way through. Those vampires were not fully prepared to take us on, but they definitely made us stumble on our path. And this was how the next couple of days went on. Day after day, looking and desperately searching for our mate. Rosalie's POV. Cough. 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 The only sound that reached my ears was the rushing of my blood and the faint cough that refused to yield. And I wasn't the only one fed up with my cough. It seemed the people who had inflicted it were getting fed up with it, too. Karma. Ugh. She's coughing up blood again, someone shouted. More blood poured out of my mouth. At this point, I think there's more blood near me than actually in me. It was distorting everything near me. I couldn't tell what was real, what was fake. Hell, I could barely open my eyes with what little energy I possessed. But the voices were the worst part. I couldn't tell if they were close by or far away. The voice was fading in and out, or maybe that's me. Fading away sounds nice. The room begins to sway and fade, and just before I fade, splash. I'm jolted awake. It only takes a few seconds for the shivering to start. My teeth start chattering while my muscles begin to spasm all over again. They ache in pain with new reverence. I hate these captors. No amount of pain is ever enough for them. I've been beaten, punished, scarred, burned, and so much more. I doubt I'll be able to walk away from this without some serious help. Boy, do I need it. Apparently, all those horror stories I used to hear when I was younger were true. They were also the nicer version of what these vampires are capable of. All those stories of people being taken and being so hurt when their bodies were finally found that no one could even identify them. It's as if they wanted them to suffer not only in life, but in death as well. They wouldn't even give their loved ones the peace of mind that they had been found because they were unrecognizable. So they would rot away in an unmarked grave, and everyone would wonder what had happened to them. Those were the people who currently stood just outside my cell, laughing and taunting me. Good, that should teach her. They laughed while walking away. I have no clue how long I've been here. There are no windows down here, at least none that I've seen, but then again, I can barely keep my eyes open anymore. I'm only reminded that I'm still here because of every painful gasp of air, the fluid currently filling my lungs, and the pain radiating from my entire body. I hated this. I thought my pack was bad before, but I'm starting to see that was a walk in the garden compared to this. But I haven't given up. I have faith in my mates. Hopefully, one day they will find me, or the release of the end will find me. Either way, I will be found. Damien? Lucas? Xavier? Please, anybody. It's no use. I'm not sure why I even bother with mind linking anymore. It never works, and it's not like I was that good at it before I was taken. They injected me with something the first night I was here, and since then, I haven't been able to mind link with anyone. I glanced down at my stomach. It's got marks all over it and bruised and hurt. I'm not even sure if I'm carrying anymore. Probably not. Probably for the best. Who would want to bring a child into a world like this? At that thought, I begin to weep again. I know I shouldn't cry, it's not like me. But I'm just so sick of being strong. I want a break. I lose track of time. I have no clue how long I've been crying. I start to see multiple figures coming towards me. At least I think so. The tears are blurring my vision. Great. Time for my daily dose of pain and bad puns. I'm not sure what hurts more, the whip or their bad jokes. Frankly, I think the pain would be easier to bear if they weren't laughing and joking the entire time. It just worsens my view of them. They have no humanity in them. They're just monsters. All right, wolf pet, time for lunch. I'm thinking a knuckle sandwich, he sneered. Then, before I could react, he punched me in the gut. I sucked in a painful gasp of air, but all it did was trigger a sharp pain shooting throughout my body, and before I knew it, I was coughing. Now, your highness, can't have you dying on us, one of them taunted while jerking my head up by my hair. When I came face to face with the captor, I gathered what was pooling in my mouth, spat in his face, and with every last ounce of strength, I snapped, "Burn in hell, you leech." "Oh, now you're gonna get it," he thundered. Slap. I reared my head back, and my body hit the concrete that was already stained. I gasped and willed air into my lungs. Worth it. Chapter 24. Rosalie's POV. I have no clue how long I've been here. Time seems to be non-existent down here after my little stunt, which I'm not so sure was worth it anymore. Not after what they did to me. Not long after my little stunt, they took me to a new room. It looked horrific. There was an old leather chair in the center that was torn and ripped, and a single bright light hung above the chair that seemed to sway, or maybe that was me. Tools hung around the room. The tools were rusty, with red dripping from them. Blood. Soon enough, my blood would be coating those tools. That was what the entire room smelled like, copper from the rust and the blood. I tried to fight against my captors, but I had no strength left in me. But I still fought, all in vain though, because before I knew it, they bound my legs and wrists in leather bands tight enough to leave marks. I jerked around, knowing the possible horrors if I ever stopped fighting. Then they started. They kept me awake during the whole thing. I could feel everything they did to me. I screamed, but it wasn't enough to relieve any of the pain. I don't remember much after that. I started to drift away, but the blood. There was so much blood. I remember all the blood. And then suddenly I felt hollow like a shell. Those vampires did what no werewolf was able to do in over a decade. They broke me. I shudder at the memory and wipe away a stray tear. They moved me once again, but I stopped fighting. What was the point? Now I rarely eat. I didn't see the sun before, so it really doesn't matter now. Off in the distance, I hear the rattle of chains and some horrendous language. I'm not innocent, but damn, do you kiss your mother with that mouth? I watch silently as my captors bring in a man who's definitely seen better days. His hair is ratty and dark, but it was dripping with blood from the right side of his head. His clothes may once have been considered fancy, but now they were bloody and covered in dirt. Not to mention the countless tears all over them. "Here, wolf scum," one of the men shouts before tossing the man in the cell next to me. I just silently glare at the men before they turn and stomp away, not before hanging the keys to our cells on a hook not too far away. Fools. Arg. Stupid bastards, the man next to me yells, clearly trying to release some pent-up anger. I stare, and I'm starting to realize that's what I've been doing a lot more recently. Great, I've become that weird girl with a staring problem. After everything I've gone through, I watch, barely registering anything around me. It's the only way I'm able to get by anymore. Hey you! I jerk my focus back to the man who's just been thrown in. Apparently, I zoned out without realizing. I have a name, I mumble. Not that anyone ever uses it anymore. Well, what? I ask, getting defensive. What is your name? He grumbles with an overexhausted sigh. What's his problem? I contemplate telling him my name or messing with him for a little bit. The latter one. I have no name. I was born down here and I will die down here, I deadpan. A look of fear and shock crosses his face before he covers it with a scoff. Yeah, right, he denies, then asks, how about if I tell you my name? Then will you tell me yours? I nod my head. Very well, my name is Bobby, he stated proudly. I lift one of my eyebrows and give him a questioning look. Who names their child Bobby? I ask mockingly. My now dead mother, he deadpants. Oh, I am so sorry, I didn't know. I rush out. A smile creeps onto his face before he bursts out laughing. Realization dawns on me. He was messing with me. Why? I ask. Because why not? He says before bursting into another round of laughter. Deciding I don't want to deal with any more noise, I turn away and curl up on the ground, seeing if I can get some sleep. I just closed my eyes when Bobby started rattling the bars. I tried my best to ignore him. I refused to open my eyes or even glance in his direction when a thunderous boom sounded. I jerked up and saw that Bobby's cell door was now on the floor. What in the world? He swiftly exited his cell, grabbed the keys hanging on the wall, and came and stood right in front of my door. So that was his plan. He holds the keys out with one hand, almost taunting me. Now what is your name? He asks. And I now realize I never gave him my name. Rosalie, I grit out. Hello, your majesty. He bows deeply before righting himself. Your mates are waiting for you. And another damned smile forms on his face. Before I have any time to process what's going on, my cell door is wide open. Whoa, wait. You work for the wolves? I ask, surprised. Yes, he says with no further explanation. I roll my eyes because he still has that stupid grin on his face. Why though? That is for me to know and for you to bother me about for however long we both shall live, he says before walking off. I hesitate for a moment, not really sure if I can trust this guy. I glance back at my cell. Caged? Or possible freedom? Yeah, not a hard choice to make. I bolted after Bobby, my wounds all screaming in protest, but I ignored them, the thought of freedom pushing me through. I caught up to him, or rather, he slowed down for me. He grabbed my hand and started pulling me through this giant castle that was black and covered in rust and blood. It felt so cold, like no one cared for it. I had no time to dwell on it before I was dragged through countless corridors and hallways, and one thing caught my eye. Where is everyone? I voiced. Bobby stopped and turned around. Fighting was all he said. We sprang back into motion, finally reaching what looked to be the front entrance. I could hear something faint, but I couldn't quite place it. When Bobby pushed the door open, I was greeted by the sight of a battlefield, and the sound I had heard before was screams. Similar to my own, I stood still, horrified at what I was seeing. Bodies were piled everywhere. But something odd struck me. It was as if the fighting had happened hours ago. The bodies were there, but no fighting, merely screams off in the distance that were soon quieted. But there was something else, a pull. I stared off into the distance, where I thought the pull was coming from. As if Bobby could sense what I wanted, he lifted me into his arms, bridal style, and ran at full speed toward the pull. Everything passed by us in a blur, and for that I'm grateful. I don't think I could handle seeing any more bodies. We came to a screeching halt. Bobby placed me so I faced him. This is where you and I part ways, Rosalie. Take care, and with that, he spun me around and pushed me in the direction of my mates. They stood with an army behind them. They were disheveled and messy, but they were a sight for sore eyes. They were glancing around. I think they smelled me before they saw me. Until Lucas's frantic eyes met mine, and suddenly nothing else mattered. He bounded off in my direction soon after. Xavier and Damien followed after him, and in no time, they were standing in front of me. I was bombarded with questions. Are you okay? How'd you escape? Why are you covered in blood? I said nothing for a moment. I didn't have any more energy. I just wanted to go home. I latched onto Lucas and cried. He picked me up and said, "Let's go home." Feeling safe and warm for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to sleep, knowing they'd be here when I woke up. Chapter 25. Lucas's POV. I stare at Rosalie, lying seemingly peaceful on our bed. But after what she's gone through, I know that she's probably trapped within a nightmare. She just sleeps. Ever since we got back from the dreaded hellhole the vampires call a territory, we took her back home as fast as we possibly could. Luckily, we hadn't lost too many soldiers on the battlefield, and we would address their families, but at this time, our mate came first. I didn't want to know what they had done to her. She was covered in so much blood. Some was fresh, most of it was dried and caked onto her, so I can't imagine what they must have done and how long they must have done it. She lay limp in my arms. The second she made contact with me, it's like all my worries and fears washed away, and an entirely new set of worries replaced them. And I just knew that it wasn't over just yet. My brothers and I were so worried. Damien hasn't even gotten near her yet. He just watches from a distance. I know he doesn't forgive himself for what happened before she was taken. I think he blames himself for the whole incident. If she hadn't gotten mad, she would still be inside with us, where we could have protected her. When we got back, healers and doctors were waiting for us. They practically had to fight with us to get her away. I know they want to help, but she is our mate, and we've been away from her for far too long already. The healers ran a bunch of tests on her. We were so stressed about what had happened to her. When we first saw her, we barely recognized her. She was covered in so much blood. It was a few hours before we knew the whole story of what had happened. The news shook me to my core. Damien stormed out immediately, and we didn't see him for hours after we got the news. Our child was gone. There are still several holes in the wall from when the doctor told us. We should have made those leeches suffer more. We spent a few days in the hospital, reminding me of the first time we saw her. A small, faint smile comes to my face, remembering the moment I heard Damien yelling that he had found her. We vowed to protect her, and that went all to hell. I'm not sure about my brothers, but I couldn't stand to see her in that hospital bed. She looked so small and fragile, like any moment could break her. So after a few days, we moved her back to our house, but she's barely here. She wakes up, but it's like she's not even there, and most of the time she sleeps. It's almost like she's hollow. I wonder what she dreams about? Xavier questions out loud. We were all currently watching her sleep, and I know that sounds creepy, but it's the only thing that puts our minds at ease, knowing that she's safe and here with us. What makes you think they're dreams? Damien asks. He's got a point. A sad, depressing point, but a point nonetheless, I chime in, glaring lightly at Damien. The truth was an ugly one. I acknowledged it silently, so did Xavier, but Damien felt the need to point it out every 5 minutes. I guess that would be the guilt talking. I've always wondered why there are always so many people at funerals, even when they didn't see the person that often in their lifetime. But after watching Damien, I realize it's because guilt is more potent than love. Rosalie's POV. Field of flowers? I ask myself as I glance around. It feels nice. Hello, my dear, Selena said, the Titan goddess of the moon. I knew she was there, but I didn't bother turning around to greet her. I just continued to stare out at the field of flowers. Hello, I mumbled, thinking better of ignoring a goddess. You did it, order is restored, she congratulated me. But at what cost? I asked, finally turning around, showing her my tear-stained cheeks. She looked so impassive, like she didn't care about all the pain she had caused me, as if this was her plan all along. She didn't need me. She needed my mates, and they needed something to fight for. All I was to her was a reason to destroy the vampires. And I finally snapped. They took my child. I was tortured and beaten for days. But, oh yeah, order is restored. I yelled at her. She looked as if she wanted to say something, but I promptly cut her off. Just leave me alone, I whispered before more sobs overtook my body. She said nothing as she left, but I knew she was gone when the scene shifted. My beautiful field of flowers that I had grown so much to love was gone just like that. I was back in our bedroom. It was weird. I was looking at my body lying on the bed. I hadn't seen myself in such a long time. I don't think my body has healed much since I've been back, or maybe I was worse. Wouldn't that be the kicker? Damn, I look like death. Is she still sleeping? Damon asks. I whip my head around, and all three of them were standing around the bed where I was lying. Yeah, all she does is sleep, Lucas responds. He looks so sad, though. They all do, stupid mate bond. Why won't she wake up? Xavier asks, desperation filling his voice. I want to. I shout. But it's as if they can't hear me, like some invisible force keeping me away from them. I don't want to be alone anymore. I close my eyes and will the darkness and barrier between us to go away, and I force my eyes open. A familiar-looking ceiling instantly greets me. I was no longer looking at my body, I was back in it. I slowly blink open my eyes. I hear a gasp off to my side. Then I'm being swarmed by my mates, and for the first time in a while, I feel better. Like I'm a little less empty. This isn't the first time I've been awake, but this feels like the first time I'm actually here. Rosalie? Lucas hesitantly asks. Yeah, I answer. I hear a pounding for a brief moment before Lucas is shoved out of the way. Apparently, the pounding was Damien running across the room with all his possible force. And not a second later, Damien is apologizing, almost begging. Rosalie, I'm so sorry from the depths of my soul. You are not weak. You are the strongest person I've ever met, and I'm so sorry, Damien said while gripping my hand. Damien, it's okay. I know you only wanted to protect me, and it's absolutely adorable that you think I can't protect myself, I said in a mocking tone. By your joking tone, I take it I'm forgiven, he questions. I pretend to debate for a moment, then smile and nod yes. I'm instantly trapped within Damon's arms. Damon. I gasp out. I get that you missed me, but I can't breathe, I rush out. Oh, sorry, he says before hurriedly releasing me. Dull? Xavier says, and I'm honestly unsure of how I haven't seen him before now. Can we please talk? Xavier curiously asks. I debate for a moment, knowing that the topic of discussion won't be pretty. Ultimately, I say yes, because maybe I'll feel better once I tell them what happened. How did you escape? Damon blurts out. A swift punch in the gut from Lucas leaves him doubled over. What? I was curious, Damon says while heaving. I look over at them curiously. Didn't they see Bobby? I think to myself, didn't you send someone to get me out? I ask, a slight tension bubbling in my stomach. They all look at each other, then back at me, with looks I can only describe as if I've grown a second head. No, Xavier deadpants. Great, I listen to a total stranger, I blurt out. A look of dread crosses their faces, no doubt mirroring my own. Did you see Bobby? I whisper, all wide-eyed. They all shake their head no in unison. I think back to my interactions with him. I knew they were odd, but never that odd. Well, no matter how, all that matters is that we have you back, Lucas says. Yeah, and we're here together and nothing will tear us apart again, Damon vows. You know I lost the baby, right? I ask, a slight sob escaping at my question, deciding to bite the bullet and get it over with. They lower their heads before Lucas mumbles a quiet yes. Tears spring to life in my eyes. I begin to sob uncontrollably. It just feels that much more real to have someone other than myself confirm it. I'm soon wrapped in a ball of warmth. A few silent sniffles are heard from around me. We continue to hold each other for a moment, lost in the grief of losing a child. It's going to be okay, Damon assures. After a moment of silence, when I finally stopped crying, Xavier decides to break the silence. Now we can always try for another, he adds. I nod my head before adding, yes, but not for a while. I want to work on us and our kingdom. Sounds fair. I mean, after all, we have all the time in the world, Damon responds. Chapter 26. Rosalie's POV. You know how life can be cruel and knows exactly when to kick you when you're down? Yeah, me too. Right now, life is tearing me apart, or at least that is what it feels like physically. Why did no one tell me childbirth was this painful? I mean, come on. I have been brutally tortured for months on end at one point. Of course, that was years ago. The horror and trauma that I went through made me seriously consider whether living was really worth it or not, and I foolishly decided it wasn't. But I am glad I stayed because over these past 10 years, I have gotten to know these guys, and we have really grown, and so has our kingdom. The vampires and werewolves are no longer divided, and the humans are no longer slaves to either race. Not to say everything is perfect, but the quality of life is so much better now, which is the only reason I felt safe and content enough to bring a baby into this world. It was rough in the beginning because everyone and their mother was practically demanding that I get pregnant. At least once a week, I had old women coming up to me telling me all the home remedies to conceive quickly. Thank the goddess, I will never have to have another one of those conversations again. But if I do, I may scream. Breathe, Rosalie, you are doing great. Xavier cheers, bringing me back to the task at hand. I am breathing. I grit out when another contraction hits me, and I scream as it rakes through me. At this point, I can't tell whether I am happy or mad about having to push out this kid. I am pretty sure it is a girl, since she is well past her due date. No little boy would make me wait this long. Most little boys have no patience. At least the ones I've been babysitting lately. I wanted to get some first-hand experience with taking care of babies, because Goddess knows one of us has to remain calm. And I know damn well it won't be any of the 3 wolves that got me into this situation in the first place. Your Majesty, you can begin pushing, the doctor tells me, as if I needed her permission. I take another deep breath before ultimately trying to push a watermelon out of a straw. I have Xavier and Damien on either side of me, and I am currently squeezing their hands. I am trying to break their bones. I want them to be in at least some kind of pain, like I am. You are doing great, sweetheart. Lucas calls over all my screaming. He is currently standing at the foot of the bed, and I can tell by the tone of his voice that it is not a pleasant sight. You jerk, you all got to do the fun part, and now I do all the work. I see that them. Your Majesty, just keep pushing. The doctor orders. His tone causes 3 growls to erupt from around me, and it just reminds me how protective they have been these last 9 months. I haven't been allowed to leave the house, and I always had one of them hovering near me at all hours of the day and night. It was cute and sweet at first, but after about a month, I really wanted to hurt them. The head is crowning, the doctor shouts. Come on, baby, you can do it. Just a little bit more, Damien coaches. No, you do it for me, I sigh, exhausted. I hear a few chuckles from around me before, ultimately, I push once again, and the sound of a crying child assaults my ears. Congratulations, it is a baby girl, the doctor says, raising her up so I can see her. She looked messy, but I didn't care. She is my little girl. After everything we have been through to get here, it was worth it. A nurse took her away briefly to clean her up, and Xavier followed her, while Damien comforted me and congratulated me. I was faintly watching Lucas out of the corner of my eye. The doctor was finishing up the procedure, and poor Lucas looked as if he was about to faint. Without a word, he quickly moved up to my head. We didn't have to wait much longer for my daughter to come back, only, instead of the nurse carrying her, Xavier was. I couldn't decipher the look on his face. It was a mix of amazement and love, but there was also fear. She is so small, I feel like I could break her, Xavier whispered. I could tell his anxiety was riding high, especially if he was whispering. He gently hands her to me before Damien asks the one question I absolutely dreaded. So, what is her name? It needs to be fierce, Lucas says. But it also has to be diplomatic. After all, she is going to be the next queen, Damien chimes in. Thank you so much, you all are so incredibly unhelpful, I deadpan. After about an hour of us going back and forth, throwing out ideas left and right, even to the point where some of the staff decided to add in their opinions, we finally came up with her name. Difna. Princess Difna, the firstborn Luna Queen.
End of chapter analysis. This is a perfect example of a full circle resolution. In chapter 1, Rosalie was a servant, lower than a bug, with no home and no hope. In chapter 26, she is the Luna Queen, holding the future heir to the throne. Notice the 10-year time jump. I didn't put that there just to age them up, I put it there to show stability. It proves that their victory wasn't just a fluke, they built a decade of peace. The most touching moment, in my opinion, is seeing Xavier, the man who can crush boulders, afraid to hold his own daughter because she is so small. It humanizes the monsters one last time. Audience engagement questions. Rosalie admits she squeezed their hands trying to break their bones. Be honest, would you be a calm birthing partner, or would you be screaming at your mates too? We jumped 10 years into the future to see this happy ending. Do you feel this was the right amount of time to heal Rosalie's trauma? The name Daphne was chosen for being fierce yet diplomatic. Does it fit the daughter of the three kings and the survivor queen? The book may be closing, but in a world where humans, wolves, and vampires coexist, the story of the royal family is never truly over.